to thank him. And then what happened was,
Why am I watching
about
this?
using the Defense Act to make sure we go out and get whatever is needed out there to protect people. And again, I go back to this. He had nothing. He did virtually nothing. And then he gets out of the hospital and he talks about don't worry, it's all going to be over soon. Come on. There's not another serious scientist in the world who thinks it's going to be over soon.
President Trump, your reaction?
I say over soon. I say we're learning to live with it. We have no choice. We can't lock ourselves up in a basement like Joe does. He has the ability to lock himself up. I don't know. He's obviously made a lot of money someplace, but he has this thing about living in a
What?
basement.
Wait, I went and got water. What happened?
By the way, I, as the president, couldn't do that. I'd love to put myself in the basement or in a beautiful room in the White House and go away for a year and a half until it disappears. I can't do that. And Kirsten, every meeting I had, and I'd meet a lot of families, including Gold Star families and military families. Every meeting I had, and I had to meet them. I had to.
Well, that's an
It'd be
expression.
horrible to have canceled everything. I said, this is dangerous, and you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals, and now I recovered. 99.9.
I don't know why I'm watching this.
99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up.
Do we have like non-auto-generated? No.
Close up our nation.
Does MSNBC have real captions?
This is
Yes.
dangerous. And you catch it. And I caught it. I learned a lot. Great doctors, great hospitals. And now I recovered. 99.9 of young people recover. 99% of people recover. We have to recover. We can't close up our nation. We have to open our school, and we can't close up our nation.
I'm sure that's really
or we're
heartwarming
not
and
going to
comforting
have
to
a
the
nation.
And of course,
What are we
the
at?
CDC has said young
220,000
people
people that
can get
died?
sick with COVID-19 and can pass it. Vice President Biden, I want to talk broadly about strategy, though. You
Can I respond to that?
30 seconds, please, and then I have a question.
No, number one. He says that we're learning to live with it.
I have to say, muting the
People are learning to die
microphone,
with it.
way
An
better.
empty chair at the kitchen table this morning. That man or wife going to bed tonight and reaching over to try to touch their, out of habit, where their wife or husband was, is gone. Learning to live with it. Come on. We're dying with it. Because he's never said, you said it's dangerous.
Whiteboard.
When's the last time? Is it really dangerous still?
Oh, good.
Are we dangerous? You tell the people it's dangerous now? What should they do about the danger? And you say, I take no
What's the-
responsibility.
Let me
Isn't there a
talk about
delete
your-
button?
Excuse me,
Very quickly.
I take full responsibility. It's not my
Delete.
fault that
There
it
we go.
came here. It's China's fault. And you know what? It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. They kept it from going into the rest of China for the most part, but they didn't keep it from coming out to the world, including Europe and ourselves.
Vice President Biden.
Fact is that when we knew it was coming, when it hit, what happened? What did the president say? He said, don't worry, it's going to go away.
Welcome to the
By
residential
Easter, don't worry, the
debate.
warm weather, don't worry, maybe inject bleach. He said he was kidding when he said that, but a lot of people thought it was serious. A whole range of things the president has said. Even today, he thinks we are in control. We're about to lose 200,000 more people.
What color red is that?
Perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that, but just to finish this, when I closed, he said I shouldn't have closed. And that went on for months. What Nancy
Hey,
Pelosi said
homeowners,
the same
don't
thing.
forget
She was
to get
dancing
your
in the streets in
residential
Chinatown in
rebate.
San Francisco. But when I closed, he said, this is a terrible thing, you're xenophobic. I think he called me racist even, and because I was closing it to China. Now he says I should have closed it earlier. It just, Joe, it doesn't
I
work.
didn't say either of those things.
You
I didn't say
certainly
should have
did.
called
You
Rosie,
certainly
and I
did.
I talked about his xenophobia in a different context. It wasn't about closing the border to Chinese coming to the United States.
All right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies to
He
handling
thought
this.
I shouldn't have closed
Hey!
the border.
Well, let's-
That's obvious.
Hey, hey, hey.
Is that
I heard
enough
this is
response
muted.
quickly, Vice President
No.
Biden? Okay. Let's talk about your different strategies toward dealing with this. Mr. Vice President, you suggested you would support new shutdowns if scientists recommended it. What do you say to Americans who are fearful that the cost of shutdowns, the impact on the economy, the higher rates of hunger, depression, domestic and substance abuse outweighs the risk of exposure to the
Jokes on you, I was already sad.
I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part. Why businesses have gone under, why schools are closed, why so many people have lost their living, and why they're concerned. Those other concerns are real. That's why
I don't even know what
he
to
should
draw
have been,
on this.
instead of in a sand trap at a golf course, he should have been negotiating with Nancy Pelosi
Bam.
and the rest of the Democrats and Republicans.
He should have
about
Pokemon
what
gone
do
to
about the acts that are passing for billions
scientists.
of dollars to make sure people had the capacity.
But you haven't ruled out more shutdowns.
Well, no, I'm not shutting down the name, but there are, look, you need standard. The standard is if you have a reproduction rate in a community that's above a certain level, everybody says, slow up, more social distancing. Do not open bars and do not open gymnasiums. Do not open until you get this under control.
Do not open this folder of
Under
porn.
control. But when you do open, give the people the capacity.
Do not
to be
open your
able to
fly
open
in a
and
Zoom
have the
call. What else do we
capacity
do?
to it
I have
safely.
voted. I
For
just
example,
mailed it.
schools.
Okay.
Schools, they need a lot of money to open. They need to deal with ventilation systems. They need to deal with smaller classes, more teachers, more pods. And he's refused to support that money, or at least up to now.
Let's talk about
What
schools.
money?
President Trump,
The residential rebate money?
And then I have a follow-up.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. Look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight.
Try not to look
and
at
they're
Pennsylvania.
dying. They're dying. And he
Worst
supports all
drivers in
these
the
people.
country.
All he talks about is shutdowns. No, we're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And it's like, as an example, I have a young son. He also tested positive. By the time I spoke to the doctor the second time, he was fine. It just went away. Young people, I guess it's their immune system.
Let me follow up with you, President Trump. You've demanded schools open in person and insist they can do it safely. But just yesterday, Boston became the latest city to move its public school system entirely online after a coronavirus spike. What is your message to parents who worry that sending their children to school will endanger not only their kids, but also their teachers and families?
I want to open the schools. The transmittal rate to the teachers is very small.
My statement
But I want
is
to open the schools. We have to open our country.
Zoom
We're not gonna
schools
have a
suck.
country. You can't do this. We can't keep this country closed. This is a massive country with a massive
true.
economy. People are losing their jobs. They're committing suicide. There's depression, alcohol, drugs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. There's abuse, tremendous abuse. We have to open our country. You know, I've said it often. The cure cannot be worse than the problem itself. And that's what's happening. And he wants to close down. He'll close down the country if one person in our massive bureaucracy
it's supposed
says
to be
we
money
should
that's
close it
flying.
down.
Didn't
Vice
quite.
President Biden, your
Simply
response.
not true. We ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. We ought to be able to safely open, but when they need resources to open. You need to be able to, for example, if you're going to open a business, have social distancing within the business. You need to have, if you have a restaurant, you need to have plexiglass dividers so people cannot infect one another. You need to be in a position where you can take testing rapidly and know whether a person is in fact infected. You need to be able to trace. You need to be able to provide all the resources.
I know
you
all
need
about
to do this.
tracing.
And that is not
Stole a bunch of
inconsistent
Sonic
with
fan art and
saying
passed it
that
off as my own in
what
elementary
we're
school.
going to make sure that we can open safely. And by the way, all you teachers out there, not that many of you. are
Screw
gonna die,
you.
so
Oh,
don't worry
wait.
about it. So don't worry about it. Come on.
President Trump, let me follow up with you quickly.
By the way, I will say this. If you go and look at what's happened to New York, it's a ghost town.
It's great. Oh.
It's a ghost town. And when you talk about plexiglass, these are restaurants that are dying. These are businesses with no money.
They can't afford
Putting up
plexiglass.
Plexiglass is unbelievably expensive.
Wait,
And
is
it's
it?
not the answer. I mean, you're going to sit there in a cubicle wrapped around with plastic.
How much is plexiglass?
These are businesses that are dying, Joe. You can't do that to people. You just
Cost
can't.
of
Take a look at New York and
plexiglass.
what's happened to my wonderful city.
Professional
for-
cut
for
sheet
so many years.
from
I loved it. It was
professionalplastics
vibrant. It's dying. Everyone's
.com.
leaving New York.
Take a look
Vice
at what
President
New
Biden.
York has
Oh,
done in terms
it's not
of
loading.
turning the curve
How about
down
Amazon?
in terms of the number of people dying. And I don't look at this in terms of the way he does. Blue states and red
12
states.
by
They're all the
18.
United
$9.
States.
Yeah,
You
you're
look at
right.
the states that are having such a
No one can
spike
afford that.
in the coronavirus. They're the red states. They're the states in the Midwest. They're the states in the upper Midwest. That's where the spike is occurring significantly. But they're all Americans. They're all Americans. And what we have to do is say, wear these masks, number one. Make sure we get the help that the businesses need that has money's already been passed to do that. It's been out there since the beginning of the summer, and nothing's happened.
President, New York has lost more than 40,000 people, 11,000 people in nursing homes.
President Trump, what
when
about-
you say spike, take a look at what's happening in Pennsylvania, where they've had it closed. Take a look at what's happening with your friend in Michigan, where her husband's the only one allowed to do anything. It's been like a prison. Now it was just ruled unconstitutional. Take a look at North Carolina. They're having spikes, and they've been closed, and they're getting killed financially.
I think
We
they
can't
move too
let
much
that
to get
happen,
funny
Joe.
mustaches.
You can't let that happen. We have to open up. And we understand the disease. We have to protect our seniors. We have to protect our elderly. We have to protect especially our seniors with heart problems and diabetes problems. And we will protect them. We have the best testing in the world by far. That's why we have so many cases.
Let me follow up with you before we move on to our next section. President Trump, this week you called Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's best-known infectious disease expert, quote, a disaster. You described him and other medical experts as, quote, idiots.
And you
If
said
you're
he
not
can't
listening
throw
to
a
them,
pitch.
Who are you listening to as you
Let me-
fight this?
I'm listening to all of them, including Anthony. I get along very well with Anthony. But he did say, don't wear masks. He did say, as you know, this is not going to be a problem.
Oh God, is Joe getting
I think
raptured?
He's a Democrat, but that's okay. He said this is not going to be a problem. We are not going to have a problem at all. When Joe says that, I said, Anthony Fauci said, and others, and many others, and I'm not knocking him a lot.
I feel like I have
Nobody
to put something on the
nobody
microphones,
knew
but I don't
this
know
thing
what.
was. Nobody knew where it was coming from, what it was. We've learned a lot. But Anthony said, don't wear masks. Now he wants to wear masks. Anthony also said, if you look back, exact words, here's his
Make
exact
it a hot
words.
dog.
This is no problem. This is going to go away soon. So he's allowed to make mistakes. He happens to be a good person.
Vice President Biden, your response quickly, and then we're going to move on to the next section.
I think he could throw a
Response is
fine
to
pitch.
Think about what the president knew in January and didn't tell the American people. He was told this was a serious virus that spread in the air, and it was much worse than the flu. He went on record and said to one of your colleagues, recorded, that in fact he knew how dangerous it was, but he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us because he didn't want us to panic. He didn't want us, Americans don't panic. He panicked. But guess what? In the
Oh,
meantime,
hey.
We found out in the New York Times the other
Thank
day
you.
that in fact his folks went to Wall Street and said this is a really dangerous thing, and a memo out of that meeting, not from his
Yeah, close enough.
administration, but from sell short because
What
we got to
happened?
get moving. It's a dangerous problem.
Well, this is
I'm going
what
to give you
this is
30
what-
seconds.
I thought you were muting this. What
I
happened?
don't know. Somebody went to Wall Street. You're the one that takes all the money from Wall Street. I don't take it.
I have.
You have raised a lot of money. Tremendous
Please
amounts
go
of
back
money.
into the
And every
little
time you
outline
raise
I've drawn
money,
for
deals
you.
are made, Joe. I could raise so much more money as president and as somebody that knows most of those people. I could call the heads of Wall Street, the heads of every company in America.
Please,
I
just-
would blow away every record, but I
I
don't
wanna-
want to do that because it puts me in a bad position. And then you bring up Wall Street. You shouldn't be bringing up Wall Street because you're the one that takes the money from Wall Street.
Oh no, that's not great at all.
I could blow away your records that, like you wouldn't believe. We don't need money. We have plenty of money. In fact, we beat Hillary Clinton with a tiny fraction of the money that she was able
All right, gentlemen, we're going to
Don't
move
tell me
on.
about Wall
Average
We're gonna-
contribution $43.
All right, we're going to
Okay,
move on to our
that's
next
great.
section, which is national security. And I do want to start with the security of our elections and some breaking news from overnight. Just last night, top intelligence officials confirmed again that both Russia and Iran are working to influence
Trump, come back.
this
I'm not done
election.
drawing.
Both countries have
oh,
obtained U.S.
line up.
voter registration information, these officials say, and Iran sent intimidating messages to Florida voters. This question goes to you, Mr. Vice President. What would you do to put an end to this threat? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
I made it clear.
Yes!
that
Haha,
everyone else
sucker.
has to pledge.
Now I'm gonna draw you.
Any country,
Ha,
no
ha,
matter
ha,
who
ha.
it is, that interferes in American elections,
No.
will pay a price. They will pay a price. And it's been overwhelmingly clear this election, I won't even get into the last one, this election, that Russia has been involved, China has been involved to some degree, and now we learn that Iran is involved. They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty. That's what's going on.
Got
right now.
it.
They're interfering with
Oh.
American sovereignty. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't think
took all the
president
textures
said
out.
anything to Putin about it. I don't think he's stalking them a lot. I don't think he said a word. I don't know why he hadn't said a word to Putin about it. And I don't know what he has recently
like a
said,
really
if anything,
fleshy
to
color
the
for
Iranians.
Joe.
My guess is he'd probably be more outspoken
Please
with regard
stop.
to the Iranians.
That's
But the
fine.
point is this, folks. We are in a situation
oh,
where we
God.
have foreign countries trying to interfere in the outcome of our election. His own national security advisor told him
Please,
that what is
uh,
happening
uh,
with his buddy well, I will. His buddy, Rudy Giuliani, he's being used as a Russian pawn. He's being fed information that is Russian, that is not true. And then what happens? Nothing happens.
And then he
you
touches
find
himself in
out
a
that
hotel room.
Everything that's going on here about Russia is
Joe,
wanting to
please.
make sure that I
Why
do
are
not
you
get
moving
elected
so much?
President of the United States because they know I know
I can't
them,
erase
and they
individual lines
know
or
me.
anything.
I don't understand why this president is unwilling to take on Putin when he's actually paying bounties to kill American soldiers in Afghanistan, when he's engaged in activities that are trying to destabilize all of NATO. I don't know
Drew
why he
Boomhauer.
doesn't do it, but it's worth asking the question. Why isn't that being done? Any country that interferes
on.
with us will, in fact, pay a price because they're affecting our sovereignty.
President Trump, same question to you. Let me ask the question. You're going to have 2 minutes.
never
to
gonna
respond. For
fit
2
back in
elections
the
a row now,
spot.
There has been substantial interference from foreign adversaries. What would you do in your
No.
next term to put an end to this? 2 minutes.
Let me respond to the first part, as Joe answered. Joe got $3.5 million from Russia, and it came through Putin because he was very friendly with the former mayor of Moscow, and it was the mayor of Moscow's wife. And you got $3.5 million. Your family got $3.5 million, and you know someday you're going to have to explain why did you get 3.5. I never got any money from Russia.
wait,
I don't get money from
Haha.
Russia.
No.
About your thing last night, I knew all about that, and through John, who is John.
About your
Redford,
thing
who's
last
fantastic,
night,
he
I
and
knew all
he
about
said,
that. What?
The one thing that's common to both of them, they both want you to lose because there has been nobody
Joe,
tougher
please,
to Russia.
get back in the-
Between the sanctions,
the Joe
nobody
outline.
tougher
Oh,
than me on
uh,
Russia. Between the sanctions, between all of what I've done with NATO, you know, I've got the
I
NATO
thought we
countries to put
took
up
the sanctions
an extra
off.
130 billion going to
I don't even
420
remember.
billion dollars a year. That's to guard against
Joe,
Russia.
please.
I
Joe.
sold while
Joe.
I was selling pillows and
Joe.
sheets. I sold
No, the
tank
My Pillow
busters
guy is
to
on your
Ukraine.
side. Joe,
There
get
has
back
been
in here.
nobody tougher on Russia than Donald Trump.
Joe.
And I'll tell you, they were so bad. They took over the submarine port. You remember that very well. During your
What?
term, during you and Barack Obama, they took over a big part of what should have been Ukraine. You handed it to them, but you were getting a lot of money from Russia. They were paying you a lot of money, and they probably still are.
I
But
feel like I
now,
could
with
probably
what came
finish
out
the
today,
drawing, but it's probably
even
not
worse.
gonna-
All of the emails, the horrible emails of the kind of money that you were raking
Okay,
in
close
with your
enough.
family. And Joe, you were vice president when some of this was happening, and it should have never happened.
Some of
And
this.
I think you owe an explanation to the American people.
Joe,
Why
please.
Is it? Somebody just had a news conference a little while ago who was essentially supposed to work with you and your family. But what he said was damning.
Don't
And
just.
regardless of me, I think you have
Yes.
to clean it up and talk to the American
No.
people. Maybe you can do it right now.
Oh, it's not going.
Vice President Biden, you may respond. 30
Please, straight
seconds.
here.
And then I do want to follow up on the election security.
I have not taken a penny from any foreign source ever in my life.
See,
We
Trump
learned
lines up.
This president paid 50 times the tax in China, has a secret bank account with China, does business in China, and in fact is talking about me taking money. I have not taken
on.
a single penny from any country whatsoever.
Oh, wait, no, that's
Number
not where his
one.
eye is.
Number two, this is a president, I have released all of my tax returns, 22 years. Go look at them.
I don't know.
22 years of my tax
It's
returns.
like, is he standing in
You have
front of a
not
giant
released
fan and he's a
single
cake and he's
solitary
just
year
like
of your
slowly
tax return.
sloughing off
What are you hiding?
this
Why
way?
are you unwilling? The foreign countries are paying you a lot. Russia's paying you a lot. China's paying you a lot. And your hotels and all your businesses all around the country,
on.
all around the world. And China's building a new road to a new
Joe, you're so uncooperative with this.
You have overseas. So what's going on here? Why don't release your tax return or stop talking about corruption?
They're
President
under
Trump,
audit.
your response.
First of all, I called my accountants under audit. I'm going to release them as soon as we can. I want to do it. I want to show how successful
I
I've
can't
worked this
believe there has
company
not
is,
been
but
another
much
answer to
more
that in
importantly than that, people were saying
like 5 years.
$750. I asked them a week ago. I said, "What did I pay?" They said, "Sir, you prepaid."
This is like trying to
tens
tell
of
my
millions of
PI
dollars.
why I haven't got
prepaid
any
my
work
tax.
done. It's like,
Tens
no,
over the last number of years.
my research is
Tens
under
of
audit.
millions of dollars I prepaid because at some point they think it's an estimate.
Joe,
They think
please,
may
I just have to put
pay
your
tax.
eyes in here.
So I already prepaid.
killing
Nobody
me.
told me that.
Did your accountant
Nobody
tell you
told
when
you
you
that.
released
Excuse
them?
me. And it wasn't written whenever they write this. They keep talking about $750, which I think is a filing fee. But let me just tell you, I prepaid millions and millions of dollars in taxes. Number one. Number two, I don't make money from China.
You know what?
do.
Whatever.
I don't make money from Ukraine. You do. I don't make money from Russia. You made $3.5 million, Joe, and your son gave you. They even have a statement that we have to give 10% to the big man. You're the big man, I think.
Jesus?
I don't know, maybe you're not, but you're the big man, I think. Your son said we have to give 10%
God?
to the big
What?
man. Joe, what's that all about? It's terrible.
All right, gentlemen, I want to ask you both some questions
I have
about
to
all of
Sir, I don't know what
I'm
you're
gonna let
talking
you both
about.
respond very quickly. You just said you spoke to your accountant.
Yes.
about
I spoke to the
potential
big man
lawsuits
upstairs, and,
when you can release them. Do you
As
have
soon as the
a
audit is
deadline for
finished.
when you're going to release
So
them to
no.
the American
Treated
people?
worse than the Tea Party got treated. Because
you
I have a
don't
lot
have
of
time.
people in there, deep down in the IRS, they treat me horribly. We made it
Joe,
it was all settled.
I just
until
want your
decided
mouth
to
in
run for
here,
president.
like,
I get
I'm in the
treated very
face
badly
area,
by the
and then-
IRS, very unfairly. But we had a deal all done. As soon as we're completed with the deal, I
killing
wanna
me.
release it. But I have paid millions and millions
But-
of dollars, and it's worse than paying. I paid in advance. It's called prepaying your taxes. I paid in advance.
I want to ask
Okay.
you both about questions regarding your potential foreign entanglements and questions that have been
Yeah,
raised to give you both
calling
a
to
chance
C-SPAN.
talk about this
I'm
more
undecided.
broadly.
I think
Respond
both
very quickly.
candidates do not
Why
stand
did
still
he's been
like the
saying
American
this for
people
4 years.
want.
Show us. Just show us. Stop playing around. You've been saying for 4 years you're going to release your taxes. Nobody knows it, Mr. President. What they do know is you're not paying your taxes, or you're paying taxes that are so low. And the last time he said what he paid, he said,
That's-
I only pay that little because I'm
not
smart.
great.
I know how to game the system. Come on. Come on, folks.
So
President Trump, and then I want to get to two questions to both of you.
Sure.
I was put through a phony witch hunt for 3 years. It started before I even got elected. They spied on my campaign. No president should
You know
ever
what?
have
If
to
you're not
go
gonna
through
smile,
what I went
I'm
through.
just gonna-
Let me just say this. Mueller,
There.
18 angry
That's the best we're gonna get.
and FBI agents all over the place spent $48 million. They went through everything I had.
I will
including my
officially
tax
commission
returns,
presidential
and they found
portraits,
absolutely
portraits.
no collusion and nothing wrong. 48 million. I guarantee you, if I spent 1 million on you, Joe, I could find plenty wrong. Because
All right.
the kind of things that
Thank
you've
you.
done and the kind of monies that your family
Hit
has
the
taken-
button.
I mean, your brother made money in Iraq.
Let me-
Millions of dollars. Your other brother made a fortune. And it's all through you, Joe. And they say you get some of it. And you do live very well. You have houses all over the place. You live very well.
All right, gentlemen, let me just ask some questions about all of this broadly. Vice President Biden, there have been questions about the work your son has done in China and for a Ukrainian energy
I
company.
can't draw on
Former
this.
Vice President,
Oh, I
in
should have drawn the
retrospect,
faces with
was
white
anything about
eyes.
those relationships inappropriate or unethical?
Nothing was unethical. Here's what the deal. With regard to Ukraine, we had this whole question about whether or not, because he was on the board, I later learned of Burisma, a company, that somehow I had done something wrong. Yet every single solitary person, when he was going through his impeachment, testifying under oath who worked for him, said, I did my job impeccably.
There.
I carried out U.S. policy.
He's
Not
under
one single
audit.
solitary thing was out of line.
Ha ha
Not a
ha
single thing. Number one. Number two, the guy who got in trouble in Ukraine was this guy trying to bribe the Ukrainian.
God, like,
government
his
to say
face
something
always
negative
fits,
about
and
me,
Biden's
which
like,
they
no.
Did not do and did not.
Scientifically
because it
proven,
never ever happened.
Biden's
My son
head
has
is
not made money.
more
in
nimble.
terms of
Like,
this
I,
thing about what are you talking about? China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy. He's the only one. Nobody else has made money from China.
Never
President
did
Trump,
deal with
let me
China. By the
ask
way,
my question to you.
But
and
could I
then
just,
you'll-
one thing?
Very quickly.
His son didn't have a job for a long time, was sadly no longer in the military service. I won't get into that. And he didn't have a job. As soon as he became vice president, Burisma, not the best reputation in the world. I hear they paid him $183,000 a month. Listen to this.
that's more than the
$183,000,
emails that
and they
Hillary
gave him $3
deleted.
million upfront payment.
That's
All
like
right.
5
And he had
times as
no
more,
energy.
as
I'm
much
gonna let the
crime.
Vice President
That's
respond to that
Probably.
quickly, and then I need to get to a question to you. Very
No
quickly,
basis
Vice
for that. Everybody investigated that. No one said anything he did was wrong in Ukraine.
Okay, President Trump, this is for you. Since you took office, You've never divested from your business. You've personally promoted your properties abroad.
Yeah,
And
Jimmy
a report
Carter
this
had to
week, which
get
was
rid of that
referenced,
peanut
does
farm.
indicate that your company has a bank account in China.
And for what?
So how can voters know that you don't have any foreign conflicts of interest?
I have many bank accounts, and they're all
No,
listed,
it
and
was
they're all
sadly
over the
because I
place.
think he was
mean,
like
I a
dishonorably
businessman
discharged or
doing
something.
business.
Maybe
The
I don't
bank account
remember.
you're referring to, which is everybody knows about it. It's
Or
listed.
maybe I'm like
The bank
mixing up
account was
stuff.
in 2013. That's what it was. It was open to do. It was closed in 2015, I believe. And then I decided, because I was thinking about doing a deal in China like millions of other people. I was thinking about it, and I decided I'm not going to do it. Didn't like it. I decided not to do it. Had an account open, and I closed it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
And then, unlike him, where he's vice president and he does business, I then decided to run for president after that. That was before. So I closed it before I even ran for president, let alone became president. Big difference. He is the vice president of the United States, and his son, his brother, and his other brother are getting rich.
And his third
They're
brother.
like a vacuum cleaner. They're
His fifth
sucking
brother.
up
Okay,
money
President
every
Trump,
place
thank
you
you.
go.
Click and
We
clack,
do
the
have to
Tappert
move on.
brothers.
I do want to ask you, Vice President Biden, about China. Let's talk about China more broadly. There have, of course, President Trump has said that they should pay for not being fully transparent in regards to the coronavirus.
There, now it's
if
like-
you were president, would you make China pay? And please be specific. What would that look like?
Extra
I'd make China
dramatic.
play by the international rules, not like he has done.
Oops.
He has caused the deficit in China to go up, not down, with China, up, not down. We are making
I know
sure
what up
that
means,
in
thank
order
you.
to do business in China, you have to give all your intellectual property, you have to have a partner in China. It's 51%. We would not do that at all, number one. Number two, we're in a situation where China would have to play by the rules internationally as well. When I met with Xi, when I was still vice president, he said we're setting up air identification zones in the South China Sea. You can't fly through them. I said we're going to fly through them. We just flew B-52, B-1 bombers through it. We're not going to pay attention. They have to play by the rules. And what's he do? He embraces guys like the thugs like in North Korea and the Chinese president and Putin and others, and he pokes his finger in the eye of all of our friends, all of our allies. We make up we're 25% of the world's economy. We need to be having the rest of our friends with us saying to China, these are the rules. You play by them or you're going to pay the price for not paying by them economically. That's the way I will run it, and that's what we did in upholding steel tariffs and a range
Did I
of
make it
other
look
things
like a
when we
bite
were
was
president
taken
and
out of
vice
it?
president.
All right, let's talk about North
Oh, I
Korea.
know, it's not the right
You
color.
don't have to respond to that.
Okay, very quickly. and
Okay,
then we're going to move on
I
to
guess.
North
$1.5
Korea.
billion from China to
Not
manage after
true.
spending 10 minutes in office and being in Air Force Two, number one. Number two, there's a
Air Force
very
Two, number one.
strong email talking
The first
about
of the Air Force
your family
Twos.
wanting to make $10 million a year for introductions.
President Trump, on China policy,
True.
though, what
No, but wait a
specifically are
minute.
you going to do? What specifically are you going to do to make China pay? You've said you're going
First
to
of
make
all,
them pay.
China is paying. They're paying billions and billions of dollars. I just gave
New
$28 billion.
sanctions? New sanctions?
I just gave $28 billion to our farmers. because
Taxpayers'
China-
money.
It's what?
Taxpayers' money. Didn't
No,
come
no,
from
yeah,
China.
you know who the taxpayer is? It's called China. China
Not
paid
true.
$28
What?
billion, and you know what they did to pay it, Joe? They devalued their currency, and they also paid up. And
Man,
you know
this
who got
hot dog
the
and a
money? Our
stick is going
farmers, our
great.
farmers, because they were targeted. You never charged them anything. Also, I charged them 25% on dumped steel because they were killing our steel industry. We were not going to have a steel industry.
Okay.
And now we have a steel
Okay,
industry.
Vice President Biden, your response, please.
Our response is, look.
Oh, don't
this
move
is
the
about-
microphone.
There's
No.
a reason why he's bringing up all this malarkey. There's a reason.
You said it. Everyone
I
take a
wanna talk
shot.
about the substantive issues. It's not about his family and my family. It's about
Title
your family.
drop.
And your family's hurting badly. If you're making less than, if you're a middle-class family, you're getting hurt badly right now. You're sitting at the kitchen table this morning deciding, well, we can't get new tires, they're bald because we have to
Oh,
wait
we
another
have to
month or
get
so. Or we're
skim
gonna be able to
milk.
pay the mortgage. Or who's going to tell her she can't go back to community
Frosty
college?
Flakes.
They're the decisions
Can't
you're
even get
making.
Tony the
middle-class
Tiger brand.
families Like I grew up in Scranton and Claymont. They're in trouble.
Oh, stop moving
We
the
should be
microphone.
talking about your families, but that's the last thing he wants to talk about.
I want
That is a
to. I want to
typical
talk about
statement.
North Korea.
Excuse me, just
I do
for
want
1
to
second,
turn to
please.
10 seconds.
What's the
Mr.
point of
President.
having the mics ostensibly be muted if they're not gonna do it?
And then he looks, the family, around the table, everything. Just a typical politician when I see that.
Let's talk about
I'm not
North
a typical
Korea now.
politician.
Okay,
That's why I got elected.
Okay.
Let's talk
Let's
about-
get off the subject of China.
Just-
Let's talk around, sitting around the table.
You have a button.
Come on, Joe, you can do better.
We're going to talk about North Korea now. President Trump, you've met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un 3 times. You've talked about your beautiful letters with him. You've touted the fact that there hasn't been a war or
That's a
long-range
lollipop, by the
missile
way.
test. And yet North
tried.
Korea recently rolled out its biggest ever intercontinental ballistic missile and continues to develop its nuclear arsenal. Do you see that as a betrayal of the relationship you forged? Just 30 seconds here because we need to get on to the next.
So when I met with Barack Obama, we sat in the White
heard of him.
House. Right at the beginning, had a great conversation. It was supposed to be 15 minutes, and it was well over an hour. He said the biggest problem we have with North Korea. He indicated we will be in a war with North Korea. Guess what? It would be a nuclear war, and he does have plenty of nuclear capability. In the meantime, I have a very good relationship with him. Different kind of a guy, but he probably thinks the same thing about me. We have a different kind of a relationship. We have a very good relationship, and there's no war. And you know, about 2 months ago, he broke
no, how do you
into
spell
a certain
malarkey?
area. They said, "Oh, there's going to be trouble." I said, "No,
M-A-L-A-R-K-Y?
He's not going to do that." And I was right. Look, instead of being
Is
in
there
a
an
war
E?
where millions of people, Seoul, you know, is 25
There's
miles
an E.
away. Millions and millions, 32 million people in Seoul. Millions of people would be
Okay.
dead right now.
President
We
Trump,
don't have
that's
a war,
30
and I have a
seconds.
good
Thank you.
relationship.
Vice President Biden, to you. North Korea conducted 4 nuclear tests under the Obama administration. Why do you think you would be able to rein in this persistent threat right
Because I'd make it clear, which we were making clear to China, they had to be part of the deal. Because here's I made it clear, and as a spokesperson of the administration when I went to China, that they said, "Why are you moving your missile defense up so close? Why are you
That's not what I want.
moving more forces here? Why are you continuing to do military maneuvers with South Korea?" I said, "Because North Korea is a problem, and we're going to continue to do it so we can control them. We're going to make sure we can control them and make sure they cannot hurt us. And so if you want to do something about it, step up and help. If not, it's going to continue." What has he done? He's legitimized North Korea. He's talked about his good buddy, who's a thug.
Here we have
thug,
one.
And he talks about
One
how
to the
we're better
malarkey
off.
counter.
And they have much more capable missiles, able to reach U.S. territory much more easily than ever did before.
Let me follow up with you, Vice President Biden. You've said you wouldn't meet with Kim Jong-un without preconditions. Are there
Man,
any
Trump's
conditions
lines
under
up
which you
constantly, and Joe's never
Condition
does.
that he would agree that he would be
Like,
drawing down
granted,
his nuclear capacity.
like, anatomically,
The
no,
Korean Peninsula
but-
should be nuclear-free zone.
All right, let's move on to American
Kristen,
families.
they tried
Very
to
quickly,
meet with
10
him.
seconds,
They
President.
tried to meet with him. He wouldn't do it. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like him. He wouldn't do it.
Okay, I
know
gotta
for
give him a
fact, they
chance to
tried.
respond to that
He
before we
wouldn't
move
do
on.
it.
You
And
know,
that's okay. You know what? North Korea. we're
Thank
not
you
in
for
a
watching
war.
Man
We have a
Butt
good
Live.
relationship. You know, people don't understand.
Oh,
Having
it's
a
only
good
half
relationship
done.
Trump, we
with
have to
leaders
move
of other
on, 'cause
countries
we have
is
a lot
a
of
good thing.
we have a lot of questions to get
Yes,
to.
not
That's
Your
like
response.
saying we had a good relationship with Hitler before he, in fact, invaded Europe, the rest of Europe. Come on. The reason
It's like,
we
wait,
did
what?
not meet with President Obama is because President Obama said, we're going to talk about denuclearization.
Invaded.
We're not going to legitimize you, and we're going to
Europe.
continue to put stronger and stronger sanctions on you. That's why he wouldn't meet with us.
All right,
And
let's
it didn't
move
happen.
on.
Oh
Let's
no,
move
the
on to
debate's
talk
already
about
hitting
American
Goodwin's
families.
Law.
Kristen,
President Trump, okay, we do
They
need to move
left
on.
me a mess.
Hit the button!
North Korea was a mess.
Oh my god, I just want to see them do it.
Other
3 months.
questions tonight,
There was a
President
very
Trump.
dangerous period in my first 3 months.
Do
before
it.
We sort of worked things
Please.
out a little bit.
Okay.
There was a they left us a mess, and Obama would be, I think,
Do it.
the first to say it was the single
Do it,
biggest
do it, do
problem
it, do
he
it.
thought that our country.
Okay, let's move on to American families and the economy. One of the issues that's most important
Coward.
to them is health care, as you both know. Today, there was a key vote on a new Supreme Court.
God, what if they
justice,
don't have a
Amy
mute button?
And health care is at the center of her confirmation fight. Over 20 million Americans get their health insurance through the
Wait, is he
Affordable
muted
Care
now?
Act. It's headed to the Supreme Court, and your administration, Mr. President, is advocating for the court to overturn it. If the Supreme Court does overturn that law, those 20 million Americans
Obamacare
lose
has
their
been a
health
disaster
insurance
for our
almost overnight.
country.
So what would you do if those people have their health insurance taken away? You have 2 minutes
Sure.
uninterrupted.
First of all, I've already done something that nobody thought was possible. Through the legislature, I
Oh.
terminated the individual mandate.
Thought he was gonna say
That is
it.
the worst part of Obamacare, as we call it. The individual mandate where you have to pay a fortune for the privilege of not having to pay for bad health insurance. I terminated. It's gone. Now it's in court because Obamacare is no good. But then I made a decision. Run it as well as you can to my people, great people. Run it as well as you can. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. They ran it. Premiums are down. Everything's down. Here's the problem. No matter how well you run it, it's no good. What we'd like to do
Yeah, I thought the
is
individual mandate was
terminate
killed
it. We have the individual mandate
by the Supreme Court
I
during
don't know that it's going to work. If we don't
Obama
win,
term.
we will have to run it, and we'll have Obamacare, but it'll be
No,
better run. But
wait.
it no longer is Obamacare.
No, it was
because
held
without
up
the
briefly. That's
individual
right.
Mandate, it's much different.
was, not held up,
Pre-existing conditions will always stay. What I
thingy
would like
thing.
to do is
Upheld.
much
There we
better
go.
Healthcare, much better. Will always protect people with pre-existing. So I'd like
you
to
almost
terminate
line up.
Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care. The Democrats will do it because there'll be tremendous pressure on them, and we might even have the House by that time. And I think we're going to win the House, okay? You'll see, but I think we're going to win the House. But come up with a better health care, always protecting
Okay, Nate
people
Silver.
with pre-existing conditions. And one thing very important, we have 180 million people out there that have great private health care, far more than we're talking about with Obamacare. Joe Biden is going to terminate all of those policies. These are people that love their health care, people that have been successful, middle-income people.
I love my health
Successful.
insurance.
They
Oh.
have 180 million plans, 180
I don't think anyone has
million
ever said
families.
that.
Under what he wants to do, which will basically be socialized medicine, he won't even have a choice. They want to terminate 180 million plans. We have done an incredible job on health care, and we're going to do even better.
Okay, Vice President Biden, yes, this is for you. Your health care plan calls for building on Obamacare.
That's when
So
you
my
mute
question
it?
is, what is your plan if the law is ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option, become Biden care. A public option.
I was gonna make that joke.
If you, in fact, do not have the wherewithal to be, if you qualify for Medicaid.
Obamacare
and
is
do
far
not have the
catchier.
wherewithal in your state to get Medicaid, you automatically.
Malarkey
enroll,
care.
providing
I'd sign up for
competition
that.
For insurance companies. That's what's going to happen. Secondly, we're going to make sure we reduce the premiums and reduce drug prices by making sure that there's competition that doesn't exist now by allowing the Medicare to negotiate drug prices with the insurance companies. Thirdly, the idea that I want to eliminate private insurance, the reason why I had such a fight with 20 candidates for the nomination was I support private insurance. That's why I did not one single person with private insurance would lose their insurance under my plan, nor did they under Obamacare. They did not lose their insurance unless they chose they wanted to go to something else. Lastly, we're going to make sure we're in a situation that we actually protect pre-existing. There's no way he can protect pre-existing conditions. None, zero. You can't do it in the ether. He's been talking about this for a long time.
This
There
debate
is
makes me want to
he's
do
never
some
come up
ether.
with a plan. I guess we're going to get the pre-existing condition plan the same time we get the infrastructure plan.
And the same time we get his tax returns.
17, 18, 19, and 20.
Oh, man, remember
That's
Infrastructure
4
Week?
minutes. I know you're getting anxious. The fact is that
Infrastructure
it's
Week
already
comes
cost the
52
American
times a
people
year.
because of this terrible handling of the COVID virus and economic spillover. 10 million people have lost their private insurance. And he wants to take away 22 million more people who have it under Obamacare and over 110 million people with pre-existing conditions. And all the people from COVID are going to have pre-existing conditions. What are they going to do?
I have a follow-up for you, Vice President Biden. It relates to something that President Trump said. He's accusing you of wanting socialized medicine. What do you say to people who have concerns that your health care plan, which includes a government insurance option, takes the country one step closer to a health care system run entirely by the government? What's
I
your
say
response
it's
to that?
ridiculous. It's like saying that, the idea that the fact that there's a public option that people can choose, that makes it a socialist plan. Look, the difference between
Joke's
a
on you,
president
everyone. I'm
healthcare,
not
it's
that far to the
a
left.
privilege, it's a right. Everyone should have the right to have affordable health
Like,
care. And I am very proud of
portraying
my
it as,
plan.
like,
It's gotten
Comrade
endorsed by
Joe is
all the major labor unions as well as
very
as
stupid.
a whole range of other people who in fact are
I don't think
concerned
anybody
with the
thinks of
field.
Joe Biden
This
as
is
like a
something that's
lefty
gonna save
ideologue.
people's lives. and this is going to give some people an opportunity.
Such a terrible
an opportunity to have health care
point
for
of
their
attack.
children. How many of you home are worried and rolling around in bed tonight wondering what in God's name you're going to do if you get sick? Because you've lost
Die.
your home insurance.
Excuse me,
your
die,
health
I
insurance,
guess.
Your company's gone under. We have to provide health insurance for people at an affordable rate, and that's what I do.
President
Excuse
Trump,
me, he was
your
there
response.
for 47 years. He didn't do it. He was now there as vice president for 8 years, and it's not like it was 25 years ago. It was 3 3/4. It was just a little while ago, right? Less than 4 years ago. He didn't do anything. He didn't do it. He wants socialized medicine, and it's not that he wants it. His vice president, I mean, she is more liberal than Bernie Sanders and wants it even more. Bernie Sanders wants it. The Democrats want it. You're going to have socialized medicine, just like you went with fracking. We're not going to have fracking. We're going to stop fracking. We're going to stop
Sorry,
fracking.
the
Then he
cop
goes to
is the
Pennsylvania
most
after he gets a
liberal
nomination where he got very lucky to
Democrat.
get it. And he goes to Pennsylvania and he says, "Oh, we're going to have fracking." And you never asked that question. And by the way, so far, I respect very much the way you're handling this, I have to say.
By the way-
But somebody should ask the question.
You can ask-
He goes for a year.
Oh, Joe,
There will be-
they're gonna mute you.
We
There will
do
be
have
no
a number of
control.
we have a number of topics.
No,
we're
no,
gonna
but
get
that's
to.
a-
Every candidate should have like a button under the
The
podiums
same thing with
where they can
socialized
mute the other
medicine.
candidate, but they can only do it
My
once.
response is people deserve to have affordable health care, period. Period, period, period. And the Biden care proposal will in fact provide for that affordable health care, lower premiums. What we're going to do is going to cost some money. It's going to cost over $750 billion over 10 years to do it.
Oh.
And they're going to have lower premiums. You can buy into the better
Move it
plans,
back.
the cheaper plans, lower your premiums, deal with unexpected billing, and have your drug prices drop significantly. He keeps talking about it. He hasn't done a thing for anybody on health care. Not a thing.
Kristen, when
Very
he
quickly,
says,
then I wanna talk
Please.
about
when he
what's
says
happening on
public
Capitol
Move the
Hill.
he's
camera.
talking about socialized medicine and when he and healthcare. When he
almost,
talks
almost
about
there,
public
yes.
option, he's talking about destroying your Medicare, totally
Wrong.
destroying, and destroying your Social Security, and this whole country will come down. You know, Bernie Sanders tried it
Stop.
in his state. He tried it in his state.
Why
His
is this-
governor was a very liberal
Who keeps
governor.
moving Joe's camera?
Okay, let's hear.
It was
Let's let Vice
impossible.
President
Trump's
Biden-
doesn't move at all.
Vice President
He's
Biden,
a very
your
confused
response.
guy. He thinks he's running against somebody else. He's running against Joe Biden. I beat all those other people because I disagreed with them. Joe Biden he's running against. And the idea
God,
that we're in a
leave his
situation
camera
where we're
in-
gonna destroy Medicare, this is
So
the guy
irritating.
that the actual
No!
Medicare said, if in fact, at Social Security, if in fact he continues to withhold his plan to withhold the tax on Social Security, Social Security will be bankrupt by 2023 with no way to make up for it. This is the guy
just
who's tried
want
to
it-
cut
put the
Medicare.
P.
So, no, I mean, the idea that Donald Trump is lecturing me on Social Security and Medicare? Come on.
I've been collecting
He tried
Social
to get-
Security longer than
tried
he
to get
has.
And then I
Social
have to go to
Security
another
years
question.
ago. Years ago. Go back and look at the records. He tried to hurt Social Security years ago.
All
One
right,
thing-
let's move
but
on.
Punched it in the
I'm gonna move on.
face.
Let me-
When they
Mr.
announced
President, I have to
last
move on
week,
to the next
Hit the
question,
button.
or else
Stock
we're
Hit
not gonna have time
the
to talk
button.
about it.
If I'm elected. If he's elected, the stock market will crash.
Okay, let's move
Biggest
Okay.
on to the
analysts are
next
saying
question
that. Matters.
very quickly.
Look, the idea that the stock market is
Why doesn't
booming
someone
is
ask,
only
like, don't you guys
measure
have a
what's
mute
happening.
button?
Where I
Like,
come
isn't that the
from is
point?
Scranton and Claymont, that people don't live off of the stock market. Just in the last three
Please
years during this crisis,
move the camera back.
Billionaires in this country made, according to the Wall Street, $700 billion more dollars.
Yeah, almost.
$700
No.
billion more dollars, because that's his only
Yes.
measure. What happens to the ordinary people out there?
okay,
What
close
happens
enough.
to them?
Let's
No.
talk what's happening on Capitol Hill. We're going to
Kristen,
move on, gentlemen.
401ks are through the roof.
We're gonna
People's
move on.
stock are through the roof.
All right.
and he
That's
doesn't
because of
come
the
from
residential
Scranton.
rebate.
That's like he lived there for a short period of
gonna-
time before
okay,
he even knew
we're
it.
gonna move on to
and he
the next
left.
question.
And the people of Pennsylvania
Let me
will
move
show
on
you
to my
that.
next
Hit the
question.
button.
As of tonight, more than 12 million people are out of work, and as of tonight, 8 million more Americans have fallen into poverty, and more families are going hungry every day.
Well, sorry,
Those
guys, we
artists
forgot
are
the
women
codes to
and
the
people
nuclear
of color.
button.
They see Washington
Oops.
fighting over a relief bill. Mr. President, why haven't you been able to get them the help they need? 30 seconds here.
They should have
Because
Twitch
Nancy
chat
Pelosi
control the
doesn't
mute
want to
button.
approve it. I do.
But you're the president.
I do, but I still have to get. Unfortunately, that's one of the reasons I think we're going to take over the House because of her.
just move it
Nancy
over.
Pelosi doesn't want to approve anything because she'd love to have some victories on a date called November 3rd. Nancy Pelosi
Why,
does
what's
not
that?
want to
Oh.
approve it. We are ready, willing, and able to do something. Don't forget, we've already approved 3 plans, and it's gone through, including the Democrats, in all fairness. This one she doesn't want. It's near the election because she thinks it helps her politically. I think it hurts her politically.
All right,
Okay.
Mr. Vice President,
You know, the Republican leader in the United States Senate said he can't pass it. He will not be able to pass it. He does not have Republican votes. Why isn't he talking to his Republican friends?
let me follow up with you, Vice President
we made a
Biden,
deal, the
because
Republicans
let me
will
ask
pass it.
Vice President Biden a question. You are the leader of the Democratic Party. Why have you not pushed the Democrats to get a deal for the American people?
Well, I have, and they have pushed it. Look, they passed this act all the way back in the beginning of the summer. This is like it's not new. It's been out there. This HEROES Act has been sitting there. And look at what's happening. When I was in charge of the Recovery Act with $800 billion, I was able to get $145 billion to local communities that have to balance their budgets and states that have to balance their budgets, so then have to fire firefighters, teachers,
fire,
first
fire.
responders, law enforcement officers, so they can keep their cities and counties running. He
Fire.
will not support that. They have not done a thing for them. And Mitch McConnell said, let them go bankrupt. Let them go bankrupt. Come on. What's the matter with
bill
these
that was
guys?
passed in the House was a bailout of badly run, high crime, Democrat, all run by Democrats, cities and states. It was a way of getting a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars.
So
to
do the
these cities.
Democrats have
It was
their
also a
own
way of
president,
getting a
or
lot
like
of
how does
money
this work?
from our people's pockets to people that come into our country illegally. We were going to take care of everything for them. And what that does, and I'd love to do that, I'd love to help them, but what that does, everybody all over the world will start pouring into our country. We can't do it. This was a way of taking care of them. This was a way of spending on things that had nothing to do with COVID, as per your question. But it was really a
what
big
color
bailout
red did I
for
pick? Was
badly
this?
run Democrat cities and states.
All right, I want
If
to.
I get elected, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to be an American president. I don't see red states and blue states. What I see is American, United States. And folks, every single state out there finds themselves in trouble. They're going to start laying off, whether they're red or blue, cops, firefighters, first responders, because teachers, because they have
it's
to
supposed to
balance
be
their
a
budget.
button.
And the
It doesn't
founders were
really look
smart.
like it. I'm
They allowed
sorry.
the federal government to deficit spend to compensate for the United States of America.
I want to talk about the minimum wage, gentlemen. Mr. Vice President, we
Well,
are talking
whatever.
a lot about struggling small businesses
Yes.
and business owners these days. Do you
God
think
damn
this
it.
is the right time to ask them to raise the minimum wage? You, of course, support a $15 federal minimum
I
wage.
do, because I think one of the things we're going to have to do is we're going to have to bail them out too. We should be bailing them out now, those small businesses. You got 1 in 6 of them going under. They're not going to be able to make it back. They passed a package that allows us to be able to call PPP. Money is supposed to go to help.
NEP. See, I knew I wrote that for a
how they
reason.
can deal with their businesses being open safely. Schools, how they can make classrooms smaller, how they can hire more teachers, how they can put ventilation systems in. They need the help. The businesses as well as the schools need the help. But these guys will not help them. It's not giving them any of the money.
We are going to move on to
One
immigration,
thing very
but I
quickly,
want
he
to
said
get
we
your
have to help our
reaction.
small businesses by raising the minimum wage. That's not helping. I think it should be a state option. Alabama is different than New York. New York is different from Vermont. Every state is different. It should be a state option.
You said very
we have
recently-
to help. It's very important. We have to help our small businesses.
You
How
said-
are you helping your small businesses when you're forcing wages? What's going to happen, and what's been proven to happen, is when you do that, these small businesses fire many of their employees.
You said very
Not true,
recently you would
by the way.
consider raising the federal minimum
it.
wage to $15
Say
an
it.
hour. You said recently you would consider raising the federal minimum wage to
What I
$15 an hour.
really
Is that
like,
still the case?
and I would consider it to an extent, but
In a
what I
second
really
administration?
like, in a second administration, but not to a level that's going to put all
Wah,
these businesses
wah.
out of business.
That
It should be a
explains
state
it.
option. Look,
Out of order.
every
I knew
different
it.
Places, I know different places. They're all different. Some places, $15 is not so bad. In other places, other states, $15 would be
Okay, President
ruinous.
Trump, thank you. Quick
No
response,
one
Vice
should
President
work
Biden.
2 jobs, 1 job, be below poverty. People are making $6, $7, $8 an hour. These first responders, we all clap for as they come down the road because they've allowed us to make it. What's
Yay.
They deserve a minimum wage of $15. Anything below that puts you below
Thank you
the
for
poverty
demonstrating
level.
clapping.
And
I'd
there is
forgotten.
no evidence that when you
I'd
raise
forgotten
the minimum
joy
wage,
in
businesses
2020.
go out of business. That is simply not true.
We're going to talk
No
about
solve.
immigration. We're going to talk about immigration now, gentlemen. And
Gentlemen,
talk
what is
about
your favorite
families
race
in
and
this
why?
context. Mr. President, your administration separated children from their parents at the border, at least 4,000 kids. You've since reversed your zero tolerance policy, but the United States can't locate the parents of more than 500 children. So how will these families ever be reunited?
Children are brought here by coyotes and lots of bad people, cartels, and they're brought here. And
Lions,
they used
tigers,
to use them to get into our
also
country.
bears.
We now have as strong a border as we've ever had. We're over 400 miles of brand new
Malamutes.
wall. You see
No,
the
coyotes,
numbers, and we
it's
let
a-
people in, but they have to come in
It's a
legally,
term
and they
for
come
people
in
that help
through-
you
But how
cross
will
the
we
border.
reunite
Let me just
these
tell you.
kids with their
Let me
families,
just tell you.
Mr.
They
President?
built cages. You know, they used to say, "I built the cages," and then they had a picture in a certain newspaper.
Put the coyotes in the
There's a picture of
cage.
These horrible cages, and they said, "Look at these cages. President Trump built them," and then it was determined they were built in 2014. That was him.
Do you
They
have a
built
plan to
cages.
reunite the kids
Yes,
with
we're
their
working on
families?
it we're trying very hard. But a lot of these kids come out without the parents. They come over through cartels and through coyotes and through gangs.
Vice President Biden, let me bring you into this
525.
conversation. Quick response and then another question to you.
These 500-plus kids came with parents. They separated them at the border to make it a disincentive.
Man, Trump's
to come
face
to
lines
begin
up
with.
perfectly with the drawing almost
They
every
real
time.
Tough. We're really strong. And guess what? They cannot, it's not coyotes didn't bring them over. Their parents were with them. They got separated from their parents. And it makes us a laughing stock and violates every notion of who we are as a nation.
Let me ask you a follow-up
Kristen,
question.
they did it. We changed the policy.
Your response
they
to
did
that?
It. We
We
changed.
did not
They built the
separate the
cages.
Hit.
Who built the cages, Joe?
Let's talk about what
Who
we're
built the
talking about.
cages,
Let's
Joe?
talk about what we're talking about. What happened? Parents were ripped, their kids were ripped from
What's
their
the
arms
point of
and
having the-
separated.
Ugh.
They cannot find over 500 of sets of those parents, and those kids are alone. Nowhere to go. Nowhere to go. It's criminal. It's criminal.
Let me ask
Kristen,
you
I will
about
say
it.
this.
Is there an echo in here?
We
Seconds, and
brought
then I need to ask
reporters,
you.
everything. They are so well.
There's nowhere to go. Go, go,
They're
go,
in
go.
facilities
It's
that are
criminal,
so
criminal,
clean.
criminal,
Some of
criminal.
them
Got
haven't been
such good-
reunited
But
with
just
their
ask
families.
one question. Who built the cages? I'd love you to ask him that. Who built the cages?
Let me ask about your immigration policy, Mr. Vice President. The Obama administration did fail to deliver immigration reform, which had been a key promise during the administration. It also presided over record deportations as well as family detentions at the border before changing course. So why should voters trust you with an immigration overhaul now?
Because we made a mistake. It took too long to get it right. It took too long to get it right. I'll be president of the United States, not vice president of the United States. And the fact is, I've made it very clear. Within 100 days, I'm going to send to the United States Congress a pathway to citizenship for over 11 million undocumented people. And all of those so-called dreamers, those DACA kids, they're going to be immediately certified again to be able to stay in this country and put on a path to citizenship. The idea that they are being sent home by this guy, and they want to do that, is they go into a country they've never seen before. I can imagine you're 5 years old, your parents are taking you across the Rio Grande River, and it's illegal. And you say, "Oh no, Mom, leave me here."
I thought you said we're going to Disney World.
Here. Many of them are model citizens. Over 20,000 of them are first responders out there taking care of people during this crisis. We owe them. We owe them.
President,
Kristen,
don't
he
your
had
reaction.
8 years.
We owe
to
them,
do
owe
what
them,
he
owe
said
them,
he
owe
was
them.
going to do. And I've
We
changed
did.
without having a specific. We got rid of catch and release. We got rid of a lot of horrible things that they put in and that they lived with. But he had 8 years he was vice president. He did nothing except
Yeah, but
build
he's vice
cages
president. Like,
to keep
that's how it
children
works.
in.
Vice President Biden, your response.
The catch and release. You know what he's talking about there? If in fact
Talking
you
about
had a
big bass
family
fishing
came across and they
in the
were
arcade.
arrested, they in fact were given a date to show up for their hearing. They were released, and guess what? They showed up for a hearing. And this is the first president in the history of the United States of America that's anybody seeking asylum.
No, they
has to
haven't
do
used
it
the
in
mute
another
button,
country.
except
That's
for,
never
like,
happened before in America.
inconsequential
That's never
bits
happened before in
where,
America. You come to the United States
like,
and
the
you
first
make
few
your case.
words of
That
someone's
guy
sentence
who
are
seeks
cut off
asylum based
accidentally
on
or
the following
something.
on the following premise: why I deserve it under American law. They're sitting in squalor on the other side of the river.
President Trump, your response
So
in 30
important.
seconds, and then we'll move
It
on.
just shows that he has no understanding of immigration or the laws. Catch and release is a disaster. A murderer would come in, a rapist would come in, a very bad person would come in. We would take their name. We have to release them into
Kick
our
their ass.
country. And then you say they come back. Less than 1% of the people come back. We have to send ICE out and Border Patrol out to find them. We would say, come back in 2 years, 3 years. We're going to give you a court case. You need Perry Mason. We're going to give you a court case.
Topical.
When you say they come back, they don't come back, Joe.
Yeah.
They never come back. Only the really...
It's gonna be like the Maltese Falcon.
But those with the lowest IQ, they might come back.
Okay, President
Very,
Trump,
What?
let's give Vice President Biden a chance to respond, and then we're going to move on to the
You
next
don't know
section.
the law, Joe.
Vice President Biden. your
Mr.
response.
President, IQ is not a valid indicator of
Check
intelligence.
it out. They don't come back.
Check it out.
All right, let's move on
But we don't have to
the
worry
next
about it because they
section.
terminated it, so we don't have to worry about
Let's
it
move
anymore.
on to the next
And you have
section.
525 kids not knowing where in God's name they're going to be and lost their parents.
Go ahead.
All right.
What?
Let's talk about our next section, which is race in America.
Okay,
I want
that.
to talk about the way black and brown Americans
Oh.
experience race in this country. Part of that experience is something called the talk. It happens regardless
I mishear
of
that?
class
Wait,
or
what?
income. Parents who feel they have no choice but to prepare their children for the chance
Oh.
that they could be targeted, including by the police, for no reason other than the color of their skin. Mr. Vice President, in the next 2 minutes, I want you to speak
Oh,
directly
boy.
to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Oh boy.
I do. You know, my daughter is a social worker, and she's written a lot about this. She's has her graduate degree
My
from
son,
the University of Pennsylvania
Bobby
Social-
food use,
And you
picks
know,
up a lot of people in his car.
One of the reasons why I ended up working on the east side of Wilmington, Delaware, which is 90% African American, was to learn more about what was going on. What I never had to tell my daughter, if she's pulled over, make sure she puts, for a traffic stop, put both hands on top of the wheel and don't reach for the glove box.
Daddy, I'm not
Somebody will
driving.
shoot you. But a black parent, no matter how wealthy or how poor they are, has to teach their child, when you're walking down the street, don't have a hoodie on when you go across the street. Making sure that you, in fact, if you get pulled over, just yes, sir, no, sir, hands on top of the wheel, because you are, in fact, the victim, whether you're a person making $300,000, child of a
Man, that lines up
$300,000 a year
perfectly. I
person,
don't know
or
what
someone who's
the
on-
dude on Biden's
on
side
food
is doing.
stamps. The fact of the matter is,
Cannot
there
keep
is
that camera steady.
institutional racism in America.
Get
And
this
we
man a
have
gimbal.
always said, we've never lived up to it, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women are created equal. But guess what? We have never ever
Twitch
lived up
streamers
to it.
at the
We've
top of that pyramid.
Constantly been moving the needle further and further to inclusion, not exclusion. This is the first president to come along and says that's the end of that. We're not going to do that anymore. We have to provide for economic opportunity, better education, better health.
Hey, look, the lollipop's the
better
best I can
access
do,
to
okay?
Schooling, better access to opportunity to borrow money to start businesses. All the things we can do, and I've laid out a clear plan as to how.
There,
to
does that
do
make it
those
look more
things.
recognizable?
Just
No,
to give
you're
people a
welcome.
shot. It's about accumulating the ability to have wealth as well as it is to be free from violence.
President Trump, same question to you, and let me remind you.
Also,
of the
how does that
question.
hot dog
I would like
taste?
you to speak directly to these families. Do you understand why these parents fear for their children?
Yes, I do. And again, he's been in government 47 years. He never did a thing except in 1994 when he did such harm to the black community. And they were called, and he called them super predators. And he said that. He
See,
said it, super predators.
It's muted there.
And
They don't
he
actually
never
mute
lived
when they're
that
talking
down.
over each other, though. They just
1994,
mute one side or the
meanwhile,
other.
The super predators. Nobody has done more for the black community than Donald Trump. And
If
you
reelected,
look-
I will now classify
with
them
the
as
exception
ultra
of
predators.
Abraham Lincoln, possible exception, but the exception. of
Monster
Abraham Lincoln,
predators.
Nobody has done what I've done. Criminal justice reform. Obama and Joe didn't do it. I don't even
Joe
think
Obama.
they tried because they had no chance at doing it. They might have wanted to do it, but if you had to see the arms I had to twist to get that done, it was not a pretty picture, and everybody knows it, including some very liberal people that cried in my office. They cried in the Oval Office. 2 weeks later, they're out saying, gee, we have to defeat him. Criminal justice reform, prison
I mean, they
reform,
could cry for bad
opportunity
reasons.
zones with Tim Scott, a great senator from South Carolina. He came in with this incredible idea for opportunity zones. It's one of the most successful programs. People don't talk about it. Tremendous investment is being made. Biggest beneficiary, the black and Hispanic communities, and then historically black
Can you say
colleges and
malarkey again?
universities. After 3 years of coming to the office, I love some of those guys. They were great. They came into the office and they said, I said, what are you doing? After 3 years, I said, why do you keep coming back? Because we have no funding. I said, you don't have to come back.
Doors
every
unlocked,
year.
sir.
We have to come back. Because President Obama would never give them long-term funding, and I did. 10
Joe, don't
year
lick your lip-
long-term
lick your
funding,
lips. It's
and I
weird.
gave them more money than they asked for because they said.
Oh, he's
I
licking the
couldn't
lollipop.
afford.
Never mind, that
And
makes
I said,
sense.
The only bad part about this is and they never see it.
cotton
Because
candy.
I got very friendly with them, and they like me and I like them. But I saved it.
Oh.
Colleges and universities.
Okay, and we're going to talk about both of your records, but your response to
What's
that.
the point of the mute button if you're like, oh, sorry?
Never, ever said what he accused me of saying. The fact of the matter is, in 2000, though, after the crime bill had been in the law for a while, this is a guy who said, the problem with the crime bill, there's not enough people in jail. There's not enough people in jail. And go on my website, get the quote, the date when he said it. Not enough people. He talked about marauding gangs, young gangs, and the people who are going to maraud our cities.
Oh, I love Midnight
This is a
Marauders.
guy who in the
Great
Central
album.
Park five innocent black kids. He continued to push for making sure that they got the death penalty. None of them were guilty of the crimes they were suggested. Look, and talk about granted, he did in fact let 20 people. He commuted 20 people's sentences. We commuted over 1,000 people's sentences. Over 1,000. The very law he's talking about is a law that, in fact,
still time, Joe.
initiated by Barack Obama.
He can commute
And
another
secondly, we're in a situation
9,950.
here where the federal prison system was reduced by 38,000 people under
I play
our
bass at
administration.
Midnight Malarkey
And one of the
Marauders.
things we should be doing, there should be
Love those guys.
no minimum mandatories in the law. That's why I'm offering $20 billion to states to change their state laws to eliminate minimum mandatories and set up drug courts. No one should be going to jail.
Oh, wait, I can move
because
this.
They have a drug problem.
Yes.
They should be going to rehabilitation,
Ha, ha, ha.
not to jail.
Oh.
We should fundamentally
How do I
change
get
the
it out of the
system,
way
and
of
that's what I'm
the-
going to do.
But why didn't he do it 4 years ago? Why didn't you do that 4 years ago?
He's
Even
vice
last year,
president.
why didn't
You
do
have
it?
one. You know he doesn't do
Keep
anything.
talking about all these things you're going to do, and you're going to do this, but you were there just a short time ago, and you
Oh, I
guys
can't
did
actually move
nothing.
it. It pops back.
Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama.
And I ran so
Because you
far
did a good
away.
job. If I thought you
Couldn't
did a
get
good
away.
job, I would have never run. I would have never run. I ran because of you. I'm looking at you now. You're a politician. I ran because of you.
All right, Vice President Biden, your response to that, and then
Thank
I do
you.
have some
Oh.
questions for both of you.
Well, I tell you what, I hope he does look at me, because what's happening here is, you know who I am, you know who he is, you know his character, you know my character, you know our reputations for honor and telling the truth.
Now pull my finger.
I am anxious to have this race. I am anxious to see this take place.
And I'm anxious for the little cup of water at the end.
Country is on the ballot. Our character is on the ballot. Look at us closely.
Let me ask some follow-up.
Excuse me.
Please respond,
If
and then we're
this
going to have
stuff
follow-up
is
questions.
true about Russia, Ukraine, China, other countries, Iraq, if this is true, then he's a corrupt politician.
Well, if it's
So
not-
don't give me the stuff about how you're this innocent baby. Joe, they're calling you a corrupt politician.
Nobody-
Take
President
the
Trump,
laptop
I want to
from
stay
hell.
on the issue of race. We're
Take a look
talking
at
about the issue.
laptop
Just
from
mute
hell.
it.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have to
just
respond.
We're talking about race?
very
There
quickly.
are 50
That's what
former
this-
national intelligence
What?
folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan. They have said
mean,
that this has all the five former heads of the CIA.
The only race is
both
Eastern
parties,
European that
said
we're
what he's
interested
saying
in,
is a
apparently.
bunch of garbage. Nobody
Race to the
believes it
bottom.
except his and his good friend.
Close
Rudy
second
Giuliani.
place.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And
You
that's
gotta be-
exactly what-
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue
Here
on
we
the
go
issue
again with
of race. Mr.
emails.
President, you've described the Black Lives Matter movement as a symbol of hate. You've shared a video of a man chanting white power to millions of your supporters. You've said that black professional
did he?
athletes exercising their First
Oh,
Amendment
no.
rights should be fired. What do you say to Americans who say that kind of language from a president is contributing to a climate of hate and racial strife?
Well, you have to understand, the first time I ever heard of Black Lives Matter, they were chanting pigs in a blanket, talking about police.
Delicious.
Pigs, talking about our police. Pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I said, that's a
Fry
horrible
them,
thing.
indicating
They were
they'll
watching
put them
down
in
the
hot
street.
oil over a
That was
skillet,
my
for
first,
example.
glimpse of Black Lives Matter. I thought it was a terrible thing. As far as my relationships with all people, I think I have great relationships with all people. I am the least racist
boy.
person in this room.
Well, what do you say to Americans who are concerned by that?
In fact, you, moderator,
I want to
you're
see
the
criminal
racist.
justice reform done, and prison reform, and opportunity zones. I took care of black colleges and universities. I don't know what
Is there
to
an
say.
audience?
They can say anything. I mean, they can
Is the
say
audience
anything.
all right? Oh, there's probably not.
It makes me sad.
Oh, there is a crowd?
I am the
You,
least
viewer,
racist
you're
person. I
racist.
can't even see the audience because it's so dark. But I don't care who's in the audience. I'm the
They're
least
all not as
racist person in
non-racist.
this room.
No.
Okay, Vice President Biden, let me ask you
God.
very quickly, and then I have a follow-up question for you.
Abraham Lincoln here is one of the most racist presidents we've had in modern history. He pours fuel on every single racist fire. Every single one. He started off his campaign coming down the escalator saying he's getting rid of those Mexican rapists. He's banned.
Oh, I don't have any
Muslims
space
because
to
of
draw a
Muslims.
top
He's
hat.
moved around and made everything worse across the board. He
Called him
says
Abe
to
Lincoln
the poor
because
boys,
he was
last
referring
time
to
we were
himself
on
as Abe
stage,
Lincoln
he said,
earlier.
I told him to stand down and stand ready. Come on.
We in comedy call
This
that a
guy
callback.
is a dog whistle about as big as a foghorn.
President Trump, I'm going to give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I have a
You
follow-up.
made a reference to Abraham Lincoln. Where did that come in? I mean,
You said
where
you're
did that-
Abraham
No,
Lincoln.
no, where did that? No.
Oh, they're
No,
touching.
I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community.
And I'm
I
saying-
didn't say I'm Abraham Lincoln. I said not since Abraham Lincoln has anybody done what I've done for the black community. Now, you have done nothing other than the crime bill, which put
You're more of a Van Buren
tens
or a
of
Taft.
thousands of black men, mostly in jail.
All right, let me-
And you know
let me
what?
a- let me
They
ask
remember
Vice
it
President
because if you
Biden
look
a
at what's
question.
happening with the voting right now,
Oh
Let
my
me
God,
ask
hit the
Vice
button.
President
that
Biden
you treated them
about-
very, very badly.
The-
Just
the-
take a look at
Hit
what's
it.
happening out there.
Vice President Biden,
Oh
let me
my
give you a chance
God.
to respond within this context. Crime bills that you supported in the 80s and 90s contributed to the incarceration of tens of thousands of young black men who had small amounts of drugs in their possession. They are sons, they are brothers, they're fathers, they're uncles, whose families are still to this day, some of them suffering the consequences. So speak to those families.
Well,
Why
hit the
should
button
they-
harder if it's out of order.
One
I
of
don't
the
care.
things is that in the 80s, we passed 100%, all 100 senators voted for it, a bill on drugs and how to deal with drugs. It was a mistake. I've been trying to change this since then, particularly the portion on cocaine. That's why I've been arguing that, in fact, we should not send anyone to jail for a pure drug offense. They should be going into treatment across the board. That's what we should be spending money. That's why I set up drug courts, which were never funded by our Republican friends. They should not be going to jail for a drug or an alcohol problem. They should be going into treatment.
Say it louder for the people in the back,
That's
Joe.
what we've been trying to do. That's what I'm going to get done because I think maybe the American people have now seen that, in fact, it was a mistake to pass those laws related to drug. But they were not in the crime bill.
But
Okay,
why
so-
didn't he get it done? See, it's all talk, no action with these politicians. Why didn't he get it done? That's what I'm going to do when I become president. You were vice president along with Obama as your president, your leader, for 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years to get it done. Now you're saying you're going to get it done because you're all talk and no action, Jim.
We got a
Your
lot of it
response.
done. We released
get
38,000. We
anything
got
done.
38,000 prisoners left from the.
You got nothing done.
38,000 prisoners were released
button.
from federal prison. There were over 1,000 people
Please.
who were given
I just
clemency.
wanna see it
We-
get
in
used.
fact, we're the ones that put in the legislation.
just
saying
prove to me it
we
even
can
works.
Look at pattern and practice of police departments and what they were doing, how they were conducting themselves. I could go on, but we began.
Did he say
the
malarkey?
process.
Did I miss it?
We began the process. We lost an election. That's why I'm running to win back that election and change his terrible policy.
I
With
just
response,
asked,
and then we're
I
gonna
just
move
asked
on
one
to climate
question.
change.
Why didn't you do it in the 8 years, a short time ago? Why didn't you do it? You just said, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. You put tens
Because-
of thousands of mostly black young men in prison. Now you're saying you're going to undo that. Why didn't you get it done? You had 8 years with Obama. You know why,
Because-
Joe? Because you're all talk and no action.
All right, Vice President
Because
Biden, and then we're going to move on
All
to the
talk
next
and no
section.
cattle. Oh,
We had a
wait.
Republican Congress.
Is that the spaghetti face?
Well, you
Okay.
got to talk them into it, Joe.
right.
Sometimes you got to talk them into it.
We're going to move on to our next section,
Like I
which
did
is
with criminal
climate
justice
change.
reform. I had
Okay.
to talk Democrats into it.
Gentlemen,
You did what we've
we're running out
already
of
done.
time, so we got to get on to
Okay.
climate change, please. You both have very different visions on climate change.
a
President
what?
Trump, you say that environmental regulations have hurt jobs in the energy sector. Vice President Biden, you have said you see addressing climate change as an opportunity to create new jobs. For each of you, how would you both combat climate change and support
I would blow
job
up the
growth
Earth
at
so
the
we don't have to
same
worry
time?
about it.
Starting with you, President Trump, you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So we have the Trillion Trees program.
Oh,
We have so
I wish
many
I could have read
different
that.
Programs. I do love the environment, but what I want is the cleanest, crystal clear water, the cleanest air. We have the best.
That's why I'm
lowest
moving the
number
country
in
all the way to
carbon
Poland
emissions,
Spring,
which is a
Maine.
big standard that I notice Obama goes with all the time. Not Joe. I haven't heard Joe use the term because I'm not sure he knows what it represents or means, but I have heard Obama use it. And we have the best carbon emission numbers that we've had in 35 years under this administration. We are working so well with industry, but here's what we can't do. Look at China, how filthy it is. Look at Russia. Look at India. It's filthy. The air is filthy.
Russia also filthy?
The Paris Accord, I took us out because we were going to have to spend trillions of dollars, and we were treated very unfairly. When they put us in there, they did us a great disservice. They were going to take away our businesses. I will not sacrifice tens of millions of jobs, thousands and thousands of companies because of the Paris Accord. It was so unfair. China doesn't kick in
We
until
could make new
2030. Russia
companies.
goes back to a low standard, and we kicked in right away. It would have destroyed our businesses. So, you ready? We have done an incredible job environmentally. We have the cleanest air, the cleanest water, and the best carbon emission standards that we've seen in many, many years.
Vice President
And we
Biden.
haven't destroyed our industries.
But wait, there's more.
President Biden, 2 minutes to you, uninterrupted.
Climate change, climate warming, global warming is an existential threat to humanity.
All three of
We
them
have
or just
a
one?
moral obligation to deal with it. And we're told by all the leading scientists in the world, we don't have much time. We're going to pass the point of no return within the next 8 to 10 years.
We're already
4 more years
probably
of this man eliminating
boned,
all
like,
the
let's-
regulations that were put in by us to clean up the climate, to limit limit of emissions, will put us in a position where we're going to be in real trouble. Here's where we have a great opportunity. I was able to get both all the environmental organizations.
That's why
as
my
well as
administration
labor
will make moon
people
bases
worried
for
about
every
to
American.
support my climate plan. Because what it does, it will create millions of new, good-paying jobs.
A space
We're gonna
rock in every
invest
pot,
for
a
example,
lunar rover in every garage.
50,000 charging stations on our highways so that we can own the electric car market of the future. In the meantime, China is doing that. We're going to be in a position where we're going to see to it that we're going to take 4 million existing buildings and 2 million
4 million
homes
existing
and
billion
retrofit them
buildings?
so they don't leak as much energy, saving hundreds of millions of barrels of oil in the process and creating
4
significant
million
number of jobs.
oh.
And by the way, the whole idea of what this
caption
is all
knows what
going
he
to do,
means.
it's going to create millions of jobs, and it's going to clean the environment. Our health and our jobs are at stake.
But what
That's what's
about
happening.
clean
And
coal?
right now, by the way, Wall Street firms indicated that my plan will in fact create 18.6 million jobs, 7 million more than his. This is from Wall Street, and I'll create $1 trillion more in economic
We have
growth
Mr. Street
than his
here on the
proposal
phone.
does. Not on climate, just on the economy.
President Trump, you're
They came out and said very strongly, $6,500 will be taken away from families under his plan. That his plan is an economic disaster. If you look at what he wants to do, if you look at his plan,
Nothing
his
to do with
environmental
climate.
plan, you know who developed it? AOC plus 3. They know nothing about the climate. I mean, she's got a good line of stuff, but she knows nothing about the climate. And they're all hopping through hoops for AOC plus 3. Look,
I love that show.
the real plan costs $100 trillion. If we had the best year in the history of our country for 100 years, we would not even come close to a number.
Very
like
daring
that.
after John and
He
Kate
says
plus
buildings.
8, they actually
wanna
go in the
take
opposite
buildings down
direction with
because they wanna
numbers.
make bigger windows into smaller windows. As far as they're concerned, if you had no window, it would be a lovely thing. This is the craziest plan that anybody has ever seen. And this wasn't done by smart people. This wasn't done by anybody. Frankly, I don't even know how. It
No,
could be
if you
done.
try to enchant it
They
up to
wanna
AOC
spend
plus 4,
$100
there's a risk of it
trillion.
breaking.
That's their real number. He's trying to say it was 6. It's $100 trillion. They want to knock down buildings and build new buildings with little, tiny, small windows. I mean, and many other things.
So the
Many
archers
other
can't
things.
shoot
Let me have
in.
the Vice President
It
respond,
is
and we're running out of
crazy.
time, and we have a lot more
You'll
questions to
destroy
get
our
to.
country.
So
Oh
let's hear from the
God,
Vice
do we?
President.
I thought it was
don't know
over
where
at
he's
10:30.
I don't know where he comes up with these numbers.
Queen.
$100 trillion.
What'd he say?
Give me a break. This plan was, this is plan endorsed by every major environmental group and every labor group. Labor.
100
because
trillion.
they know the future lies. The future lies in us being able to breathe, and they know there are good jobs and getting us there.
So does the
And by
president,
way,
to be fair.
The fastest growing industry in America is the electric
OnlyFans
excuse me,
creators.
solar energy and wind.
Or
Everybody
that.
thinks wind causes cancer, windmills. It's the fastest growing jobs, and they pay good prevailing wages, 45, 50 bucks an hour. We can grow and we can be
That's
cleaner
why we're
if
putting
we
panties
go
on a
through
thong.
proposing.
President Trump,
Excuse me.
Together.
We are
respond, and then I have some
we are
follow-up.
On a
energy
windmill,
independent
selling
for
these
the first
photos
time.
to support
We
green
don't
energy.
need all of these countries that we had to fight war over because we needed their energy. We are energy independent. I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive.
Oh, there's
It's
some.
very intermittent. Got a lot of problems, and they happen to make the windmills in both Germany and China. And the fumes coming up, if you're a believer in carbon emission, the fumes coming up to make these massive windmills is more than anything that we're talking about with natural gas, which is very clean. One other thing.
Find me a scientist
Solar.
that said that.
I love solar, but solar doesn't quite have it yet. It's not powerful yet to really run our big, beautiful factories that we need to compete with the world. So
False.
it's all a pipe dream. But you know what we'll do? We're going to have the greatest economy in the world. But if you want to kill the
All right.
economy, get rid of
The
your
economy.
oil industry. You want, and what about fracking?
All right, let me.
I missed that in the
let me
latest,
allow Vice
Apple
President
release.
Biden to
I've
respond.
never said I oppose fracking.
You said it on tape.
I did show the tape. Put it on your website.
I'll put it on.
Put it on the website. The fact of the matter is,
That's what it's like.
Lying.
Just like that,
Allow
web
banning
design.
fracking.
I do rule out banning fracking because the answer
Oh,
we need other
nuclear.
industries to transition.
It
to
works
get
in
to
Sim
ultimately
City.
A complete zero emission.
And if there's
by
radiation,
2025.
just put the
What I
school
will
on
do
it.
with fracking over time is make sure that we can capture the emissions from the fracking, capture the emissions from gas. We can do that, and we can do that by investing money in doing it. But it's a transition to that.
I have one more question in this pod, and then
Excuse me,
we have.
he was against fracking. He said it. I will show that to you tomorrow. I
Good.
am against fracking. Until he got the nomination, went
Sorry,
to
that tape's
Pennsylvania,
under
then he
audit.
said, but you know what, Pennsylvania? He'll be against it very soon because his party is totally against it.
Fracking on federal land, I said, no fracking
You
and
said-
or oil on
you said-
federal
Let
land.
me ask this
I
final
did.
question in this section, and then I want to move on to our final section. President Trump, people of color are much more likely to live near oil refineries and chemical plants. In Texas, there are families who worry the plants near them are making
How do
them
we make
sick.
sure they
Your
change fun
administration
colors
has
like
rolled back
lime
regulations
green
on these
and
kinds
hot
of
pink?
facilities. Why should these families give you another 4 years in office?
The families that we're talking about are employed heavily, and they're making a lot of money, more money than they've ever made. If you look at the kind of numbers that we produce for Hispanic, for Black, for Asian, it's 9 times greater, the percentage gain, than it was in 3 years, than it was under 8 years of the two of them to put it nicely. 9 times more. Now,
What?
somebody lives, I have not heard the numbers or the statistics that you're saying, but they're making a tremendous amount of money economically. We saved it, and I saved it again a number of
Making
months
a
ago
tremendous
when
amount of
oil
money
was
theoretically.
crashing because of the pandemic.
Okay.
We saved it. We got
Cosmetically.
relationship. We got
Culinarily.
Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Russia to cut back way back. We saved our oil industry, and now it's very vibrant again.
All
And
right.
everybody has very inexpensive gasoline.
All right.
Remember
Vice
that.
President Biden, your response, and then we're going to have a final question for both of you.
My response is that those people live on what they call fence lines. He doesn't
Say
understand
malarkey.
this. They live near chemical plants that in fact pollute, chemical plants and oil plants and refineries that pollute. I used to live near that when I was growing up in Claymont, Delaware. And all the more oil refineries in Marcus Hook and the Delaware River than there is.
We always made
places
jokes
in
about
Florida
whoever
used to
smelted
be.
Delta. It was not
When my
funny
mom got in
after the
car
first
when her
afternoon.
first frost to drive me to school, turning the windshield up, there'd be oil slick in the window. That's why so many people in my state were dying and getting cancer.
Well, that just means
The
there's
fact
less
is,
friction.
Those frontline communities, it doesn't matter what you're paying them, it matters how you keep them safe. What do you do? And you impose restrictions on the pollutions, the pollutants coming out of those fence line communities.
Okay, I have one final
Would he
question.
close
It
down
falls-
the oil industry?
It falls.
Would you close down the oil
falls-
By the way, I would transition from the oil industry, yes.
Oh,
I will
that's a big
transition.
statement.
It is a big statement,
That's a big
because
statement.
I would stop,
Why would you do that?
because the oil industry.
Why would you do that?
pollutes significantly.
I see.
Here's the deal, but
That's
you
a
can't
big
do that.
statement.
Well, if you let me finish the statement, because it has to be replaced by renewable energy over time, and I'd stop giving to the oil industry. I'd stop giving them federal subsidies. He won't give federal subsidies to the gas. Excuse me, to solar and wind.
Yeah.
Why are we giving it to oil industry?
We actually do
All
give it
right.
to solar and wind.
We
And
have
that's
one
maybe the
final
biggest
question.
statement in terms of business. That's the biggest statement.
Okay.
Because
We have
basically
one
what he's
final
saying
question.
is he is
Mr.
going to
President.
destroy the oil industry. Will you remember that, Texas? Will you
Okay.
remember that, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma?
Vice President Biden, let me give you 10 seconds to respond, and then I
Ohio.
have to get to the final question.
Gozaimasu.
He takes everything out of context, but the point is, look, we have to move toward a net zero emissions. The first place to do that by the year 2035 is in energy production, by 2050 totally.
All right, one
Is he gonna
final
get
question
China
to
to
both
do
of
it?
you. No, we're finished with
Is
this.
he
We
going
have
to
to
get
move on
China
to
to
our
do it?
final question. We
No,
have to
I'm
move
going
on
to
to our final
rejoin Paris
question.
Accord and make China abide by what they agreed to.
All
That'll
right, this
cost you
is
$1
about
trillion.
leadership, gentlemen. And this first question does go to you, President Trump. Imagine this is your inauguration day. What will you say in your address to Americans who did not vote for you? You'll each have 1 minute, starting with you, Ms.
We have to make our country totally successful as it was prior to the plague coming in from China. Now we're rebuilding it, and we're doing record numbers, 11.4 million jobs in a short period of time.
Putting my pen away for
But
this.
I will tell you, go back. Before the plague came in, just before, I was getting calls from people that were not normally people that would call me. They wanted to get together. We had the best black unemployment numbers in the history of our country. Hispanic, women, Asian, people with diplomas, with no diplomas, MIT
my favorite
graduates,
minority,
number one
the
in
woman.
class. Everybody had the best numbers. And you know what? The other side wanted to get together. They wanted to unify. Success is going to bring us together. We are on the road to success. But I'm cutting taxes, and he wants to raise everybody's taxes, and he wants to put new regulations on everything. He will kill it. If he gets in, you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Joke's on you, I'm already in one.
401ks will go to hell, and it'll be a very, very sad day for this country.
All right. Vice President Biden, same question to you. What will you say during your inaugural address to Americans who did not vote for you?
Suckers!
I'm an American president. I represent all of you, whether you voted for me or against me. And I'm going to make sure that you're represented. I'm going to give you hope. We're going to move. We're going to choose science over fiction. We're going to choose hope over fear.
As someone who
We're
works
gonna
in science,
choose
I could
to
say
move
it's
forward
not
because
worth
there are
it.
enormous opportunities to make things better. We can grow this economy. We can deal with the systemic racism.
And we
At
can
the
make that
same
guy
time,
revving the
we can
engine in the
make sure
background
that
shut
our
up.
economy is being run and moved and motivated by clean energy, creating millions of new jobs. And that's the fact. That's what we're going to do. And I'm going to say, as I said at the beginning, What is on the ballot here is the character of this country.
Also, if you're in New
Decency,
Jersey, legal
honor,
weed.
respect, treating people with
Which I voted for.
make sure that everyone has an even chance. And I'm going to make sure you get that. You haven't been getting it the last 4 years.
All right, I want to thank you both for a very robust hour and a half, a fantastic debate. Really appreciate it. President Trump, former Vice President Joe Biden, thank you to Belmont University for hosting us tonight. And most importantly, thank you to those watching tonight.
And I'm
Election Day is
sorry.
November 3rd. Don't forget to vote. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night.
Oh. Congratulations. No? The person streaming this is like, no, just, I'm done. I'm done. Turn it off. I'm leaving. Well, I mean, we have the gist of the debate there. The problem is the residential rebate is not going to show anymore on, like, any other stream. Also, it will never say man, but again. Womp womp. God, do I care enough to see if anyone else is talking about it? I mean, no.
I'll be honest, I was a bit skeptical, but I think that was actually a very helpful tool.
Oh, it works!
I do want to give a shout out to
Oh, man butt doesn't. Residential rebate does.
A tremendous command of this debate, and I think it actually helped facilitate.
Nindukia ut non now?
At the end of the day, I do think viewers got a measure of both of these men. I think this debate distilled who
Buddy,
they
they've
are. I think in many
been around
ways,
for ages.
if you've been
We
following
generally
this
know
campaign
who they
closely,
are.
you probably did not learn a lot. But compared to what we saw in that first debate, I think there is almost a sigh of relief that we at least got an idea of what each might do. The thing that struck me
How
the
can I
most
believe in science if
about
the
this
fabled
debate
mute
was
button doesn't
how
even work?
much the president sort of took his defensiveness and tried to act like a challenger candidate. He didn't really talk about what he was going to do in a second term. He would not talk much about sort of defending. He'd defend some of the attacks on himself, but he kept trying. In some ways, he was trying to make Joe Biden the incumbent. He's been trying to sort of recreate his October 2016 mojo.
I can't believe
which
Joe
get,
Biden only said
but
malarkey
he's the
once.
incumbent president, and I think ultimately tonight the question I have is, as he was trying to deflect answers on healthcare, deflect answers on COVID, deflect answers on the economy, are folks that are watching that going, well, wait a minute, who's been the president the last 4 years, you or that other guy? And that's the question I have. I do
Did he
think,
tweet
though,
it during the debate?
that Donald Trump probably stopped the bleeding tonight, and that was an important moment if you're a Republican.
Was the
senator.
president able to pump air into this October surprise that he's been working on, the emails, the Hunter Biden stuff? He kept bringing it up.
I felt as if that when he would talk about certain things, particularly that issue and a couple other times, and I want to say this very shorthand, I felt like he was almost speaking the language of Fox Primetime. And if you watch a lot of Fox Primetime, you understood what he was saying.
Also, I'm
But
sorry.
If you don't, you have no idea. I'll be honest with you. I had some.
Yeah,
people go, what is that?
I
didn't
still
hear
don't
that. I
really
understand this.
follow it.
And I
See, the
said,
problem with that
"Listen,
line of
speak
attack
that
is that it
language."
takes
And
more than
I
like
do
a
think
sentence,
that
more
was
than
part
just a
of the
headline
president's
to get
problem, is
across.
that he did speak,
There's too many like dots for people to
to
connect
folks who already understand what he's saying.
tenuously.
Did he actually talk to anybody who's vacillating in the middle tonight? And did he make a pitch to bring them back to him? I did not hear that kind of pitch. And I do think when he went after Biden personally and he went after that Hunter Biden stuff, I just, if you didn't follow it closely, you probably don't quite understand what the hit is.
Let me bring in Andrea Mitchell, NBC senior Washington correspondent. Andrea, if suburban women are the voters to get, if they're the ones who are going to decide this election, there was a much crisper presentation.
Well, I live in a
from
city.
both
Why are you asking
candidates
me?
Actually, tonight again, and I'll echo Chuck Todd. We're cheering for the home team, I think, because of the able moderation of Kristen Welker, our colleague. But that aside, do you think that those swing voters will
It lines up so well.
could possibly help them change their minds?
Oh,
I do. I think, first of all, they saw a real debate. And kudos to Kristen and the way it was structured.
Kudos to the mute bu-
tremendous amount
oh.
of work that went into that and the
Wait.
demand that she asserted.
There wasn't.
But that she actually got them to debate with each other. So you heard an incredible contrast in policies. But frankly, the fact checkers are having a field day because by my count, on race, on the environment, on minimum wage, on immigration and separating children, just the facts are very much more so with Joe Biden than Donald Trump. And I think that the callous aspects of separation of children.
Why do we need these
these are the
euphemisms?
issues on COVID that I
Oh,
think
the facts
really
are with one candidate.
do
Like,
resonate with those suburban women. That is why the president has been losing the support from those women. I was in Pennsylvania yesterday
Whatever.
talking
It's
to
fine.
people.
Doesn't
and
matter.
It's very clear that that is the key problem that he is having. Losing the support of suburban women, and the president, of course, is hoping that he can gain them back or have enough.
Yeah, I wore my
voters
pink
in
jacket and my
other
pink shirt.
voters, other white men and bring them back into the fold. But right now, I think in this debate, the care and empathy.
Oh,
that
man, you
Joe
could
Biden
really
showed,
hear
and it was the best
every
debate I've ever seen Joe Biden
saliva
do.
noise.
I think that he rose to the challenge.
Ugh.
He didn't get rattled, and I agree with Truck that the intricacies.
like I'm listening
of
to
those
Jonathan
allegations,
Schwartz
which
on
have not been
NPR.
proved, I think will escape a lot of people, except through the echo chamber.
The trick
And of
is you
course,
eat a
the
green
president
apple,
and the White House
and then
have
it
a
prevents
very
you from
big
doing that over the
microphone. They
microphone.
do have Fox and their whole media operation who will keep amplifying it. But again, I think that on
Sorry, that
COVID
was me.
and the things that really people really care about, the health of their children, the suburban women are going to hear this debate and hear Joe Biden talk about being a president for all of the people and not being that combative.
All right, Andrea, thanks. Let's turn to David Plouffe now. He was Barack Obama's campaign manager in 2008 and also served in the Obama administration as a senior advisor to the president. He's a Biden supporter.
It's
and
so weird how
NBC
facial
News
hair
analyst as well.
grays.
David, what stood out tonight, and does the Biden campaign have something new to worry about tonight?
Sorry, I got some chalk dust on my beard.
I don't think they have anything to worry about. I mean,
Yeah,
think
Delaware.
There's no more bleeding on the Trump side, but Trump's at a place where it's not just good enough to stop.
Yeah,
the bleeding.
Mel.
He's got to get people who are saying, you know what, I was leaning Biden, or I truly undecided, and now I'm voting for Trump. And my suspicion is they didn't see anything there that said, you know what, sign me up for another 4 years. I thought the most important part of the debate was the beginning of the debate, which is the issue on most people's mind, COVID. Donald Trump seemed most passionate in that debate, Lester. when he was
Donald
attacking
Trump's
Joe
emo
Biden's
cash?
family. You know, not when he was talking about COVID. Not when he
Oh,
was
wait, these
talking
are the
about-
auto-generated
not
ones,
when he
aren't
was
they?
Talking about kids who've been separated from their family.
No.
So at the end of the day, in a race that you're
Apparently
winning,
not.
at the bare minimum, you want to leave it feeling like you didn't erode any support. And I don't think Joe Biden did that. And I agree with Chuck. I think part of Donald Trump's problem for his entire presidency is he's living in this Fox alternative version of reality, which there's a lot of intensity there, but that's like at most 30% of the country. And last time I checked, you need 50% of the vote to win the presidency.
All right, David, thanks.
Well, let's bring in radio talk show
That's
host Hugh
not
Hewitt,
actually
an
true,
NBC
but
News
okay.
political analyst, president of the Richard Nixon Foundation, and a Trump supporter. Hugh, I want to hear what you thought about tonight's debate. It was a different Trump. To say it was better than the first debate maybe is setting the bar.
Really
a little
going
bit
for that
too low,
Anderson
but,
Cooper look.
Did you find yourself wishing you'd seen more of this version of President Trump along the way?
I also wish I'd
Limit.
seen, yes, Savannah, absolutely. I wish I'd seen more of this version of Joe Biden at the end. I will transition away from the oil industry. The sleeper moment in
I like
this
the
debate
Walgreens
came at the end
baseball.
when Joe Biden announced the shutting down of America's oil industry. And I believe that's going to be the soundbite that's going to travel. As I said before the debate, he had to talk to Pennsylvania, and the president
People.
did. He talked to Pennsylvania repeatedly about fracking. And we're going to see some fact checks on the vice president's record. on
Frack
fracking.
checks, as I like to
But
call them.
the oil industry, the return to the Paris Accords, that was an unforced error by Joe Biden that I think will resonate with a lot of middle Americans as being extreme. I also think the president was very effective when he spoke directly to the black community. By the way, our colleague Kristen Welker did very well tonight in maintaining pace and questions. I kind of feel vindicated when I told Mark Meadows yesterday she would do
Kind of a
just
weird
that.
aside, but
She
okay.
got
Does she have like a
level of shit,
sparkle?
and it's a very difficult thing to do.
No,
And
just that one
I do
angle.
believe, though, he made some ground with the African-American community, and that Joe Biden got tripped up by Kristen on the crime bill, on the super predator stuff. Finally, although I was listening for the laptop and I heard the vice president open the door to an examination about it, it did not dominate the way I thought it would. This was just a
Because
very
it's
solid,
dumb.
substantive debate in which people, very few of whom changed their mind, but all of whom had their bias confirmation fed one way or the other.
That's very 2020 America, Hugh.
All right.
Ha 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 ha.
We will take
We're
a quick
doomed.
break and be
Ha 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 ha.
back with your reaction to tonight's debate and what it means as Donald Trump and Joe Biden now race to the finish line.
12 days, huh? Go to commercial. It's still live. NBC News? No! I can, what? I can vote? Oh, I don't want to call C-SPAN.
The journey has taken us here through a campaign of unexpected twists and turns.
Okay, wait, where's
From a
C-SPAN?
global pandemic to civil unrest.
Not that I'm
to an
going to
incumbent-
call. I'm just curious. Oh, do they not have a live stream? No. They don't. Is there another C-SPAN? C-SPAN 2. No. Guess not.
To an incumbent
Womp
president
womp.
diagnosed with the coronavirus. With the election
Oh,
of
it's
our
the one on their
lifetimes
website?
upon us, each day brings more surprises. And whatever happens, we'll be with you every step of the way, wherever this journey takes us next.
It's not really much of
Gotta
a
get a 4-year
slogan.
degree, but a 4-year degree is super
Hi, I
expensive.
work at
We
company.
created a system
That's
where the
us.
ticket to the middle class is a thing that middle class families have to stress about and
Money.
borrow for.
Is it money?
and patch together.
Is it
Why
money?
is this happening? With Chris Hayes.
Oh, it's a podcast.
Subscribe now.
For breaking news in our changing world, download the
I'm going to
NBC
save
News
the
app.
suburbs with a
Good morning, welcome to
podcast.
Today. We're glad to have you with us.
We are tracking the next phase of America's reopening.
What measures should be in place in those classrooms?
The race for the White House.
Bulletproof
it is on.
glass, like a pawn shop.
If you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of others?
The little
Wow.
simple things.
It makes you
After
think.
all of this, we appreciate those little things.
Yes.
Whether we're physically together or not, we are
Here,
together,
oh, I
and
spilled
that's
it.
what counts.
Do all their shows have the same
Today's headlines can
logo?
be hard to understand, and a lot of kids have questions. So we started a newscast for them.
loud now.
We hope your family will watch Nightly News Kids Edition.
Oh god, look at all the streaming sites. Look at this goddamn dystopia we found ourselves in. Oh, I can't even...
Stress about.
Debate.
Oh god, forget it. I'm not even gonna touch it.
Every angle.
How much of the increased tension was due to the militias that came here?
On the
Wait,
ground.
what? What happened?
Western wildfires in California.
Entire communities were also wiped off.
Oh, I'm salty.
And in depth.
One of the big concerns is indoor air quality. What are you doing to address that?
I'm gonna shoot this child with my laser gun.
Lester Holt.
Pew pew.
This is a situation where the state continues to struggle to expand its
My,
testing capabilities.
my mask was made of lunch meat.
Protesters feel that they need to come out in full force and support their community because they feel like they're not getting that support. from the police.
Another election day coming up against the backdrop of how to keep voters safe amid a pandemic.
The moment to truly
Who has the
understand
coolest
who
mask?
we are and
Oh.
who we say we are is right here at our
That's a
feet.
big one.
A surge in coronavirus infections.
Protect your
Developments
neck
on
from
several
corona.
fronts.
The story.
Tonight, the U.S. shattering the record for most COVID cases in a single day.
From
Yay.
What's your level of concern that the kids who have
Number
been told
one.
they're going to be home indefinitely won't be able to catch up?
On the ground.
God, that's the most miserable looking man in that chair.
Change. We're back with our
What?
coverage of the final presidential debate. I want to bring in NBC Chief White House correspondent.
Surprise.
Who was inside the debate hall. Hallie, give us a sense of what it was like, the mood inside the room.
felt very different from the first and previous debate in Cleveland, Lester, when the air almost crackled with the tension as President Trump repeatedly, obviously, interrupted Joe Biden. It felt uncomfortable in the room. There was not any of that here tonight, based on our vantage point, just above the audience, and you can see people starting to file out as the candidates have left the stage.
If I have
here in
C-SPAN
Nashville.
3, they're streaming the
that
1992
because
debate.
of some of the rule enforcements from the debate commission, like obviously the muting of the microphones. And
Well,
let's
that
be
sounds
clear,
great.
there
No
was
one tell
never
me who
a mute
won.
Button. It's not as though somebody from the commission of debates was pressing a button to mute candidates at will. It was those first 2 minutes of each segment when the candidates had that uninterrupted time, as Kristen so ably pointed
Yeah,
out.
what a
in her moderation
ripoff.
of that. So you got a chance to hear the candidates speak. There are some issues already that I think will be driving some of the discussion over the next several days, specifically on policy, which is frankly what these debates are supposed to be about and supposed to be focusing on anyway. So for President Trump, I think there will be questions about, for example, his immigration stance when it comes to those migrant children separated from their parents. The president said they are working on a plan, but he revealed no specifics of it. For Biden, for example, there will be some questions perhaps on health care and what he described as Biden care and the public option. And that is something that you may hear Republicans
I like to call it
and
the
his critics
boption.
seize on as well. Biden, one of
B
the
for
stronger
Biden.
moments that his campaign
It fits. See, look.
advisors are talking about came early in the night on the
Who could remember this
coronavirus
classic
issue.
moment,
President Trump
and classic
said that we are
expression,
learning to live
only one
with
of
the
which
pandemic,
lines up?
learning to live with the virus, and Biden forcefully responded that, in fact, people are learning to die from it and learning to live with the deaths of loved ones. President Trump, for his part, you've heard Hugh Hewitt talk about it. I've heard this, and I've seen this from the president's allies and advisors already. The moment on the oil industry is something that you will be hearing a lot about over the next several days. I can tell you, based on a conversation I just had with the senior advisor to the Trump campaign, they are thrilled with the president's performance, perhaps unsurprisingly. They felt like he drew contrast with Joe Biden as a career politician. Lester?
All right, Hallie, thanks.
And let's bring in NBC political analyst and former Democratic Senator Claire McCaskill, along with Rich Lowry, editor of the Conservative National Review. Let me start with you, Senator McCaskill. I mean, I think the consensus is both candidates had a good night. Do you think this tightens up the race?
I don't know. I'm not sure it changes the race much. I mean, true, Trump was not a train wreck tonight, but he still lied a lot. I mean, he made up a lot of stuff, and that will continue to come out. And the one thing Joe Biden did, I mean, Trump has really never learned how to reach out to people who don't love him. Biden continually made it about America's families and made it about America.
If you close your
instead
eyes,
of
it
red
sounds like
states and
Elizabeth
blue
Warren.
states. Every time Trump tried to say, well, it's a Democratic governor or a Democratic state.
And it was this
Biden would bring
big.
it back to say, you know, this is one country. We need a president who will try to represent everybody and unite
Here's a
everybody.
pen.
And
I'm
I
giving
think
one to
that
all of
speaks
you.
to those women in the suburbs.
Wait, what
much
is this in
more
the corner?
than some of Trump's, you know, attack on Joe Biden's family.
What about that issue of the oil industry, though, Senator McCaskill? I mean, here's a. I
thought that was a virtual boy.
Something will be decided in
not.
places like Pennsylvania, the industrial Midwest. Was that a major
delicious
error on the part
lollipop.
of Joe Biden?
Well, he said
nom,
transition,
nom.
and I think anybody who's actually studied climate knows that this is something the planet is going to have to do. And I think he was very clear about fracking,
What?
that he believes that we can capture the emissions and fracking can continue, which is important in Pennsylvania.
Move your mouse off the screen.
And it was a good example of
Get
Joe
that.
Biden being honest, which is frankly just not in Trump's repertoire.
And Rich, what do you think? Will this tilt the numbers one way or
Well,
the
as you
other?
could see, the cursor's not on my screen, so I am more authoritative.
Trump obviously much better than the first debate. Maybe a reason for some Republicans who have doubts about him to come home. I think the theme he hammered throughout the night, that Joe Biden's been in Washington forever and is all talk and no action, I think is potentially a very powerful theme. But Biden, most of the night, was pretty sharp and pretty pointed, maybe a little overly canned. But I do think towards the end he began to fade.
I'm really confused what's happening with his
looked a little
ear.
tired, and then
It's like a
did
pierogi.
give the Trump campaign a gift that you're going to hear a lot about
It's
in
like,
coming
whoop,
days.
whoop,
and saying
where's
he's
the
gonna phase
top
out
part?
the oil industry, which may be in his written plan, but it's entirely different hearing it from his own mouth in front of tens of millions of people.
Well, since I asked Senator McCaskill about that,
Joke's
let
on
me
you,
ask
no one paid
Rich,
attention.
When we talk about suburban women in particular being key in this race, that moment where the president was asked about the separation policy and these 500 children who will know that their parents cannot be found by the government, and the president said, well, they are very well taken care of. Is that going to come back to bite him?
It's one of the issues, together with COVID, together with healthcare, that he's just inherently on defense on. There's just not a good
Well, that was
explanation
exciting.
of it. Now, I think the rest of the immigration discussion, he scored some points. He's right about catch and release, which basically people come to the country and they say they're going to show up for proceedings subsequently, and they might show up for some proceedings, but almost none of them actually show up for their deportation proceedings to get on a bus or plane to be sent home because no one's that foolish. So that's been a successful Trump policy that Obama, I think, is sorry, Biden's wrong about.
And I can see Senator McCaskill shaking her head, but you guys don't get to debate tonight. We got to get a break in, okay? And we'll be right back.
Oh well. Womp womp. Well, that's politics. I'm gonna go and sleep. I don't know. Election day. Remember to vote. Just do it. Please. Okay, bye.